I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please. Mrs. Clark.
Trustee Bertelson,
Excused.
Trustee Black,
Here.
Trustee D,
Here.
Trustee Lucine,
Here.
Trustee Moran,
Excused.
Trustee Neal,
Here.
Trustee Reinhardt,
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
Good evening. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I would like to take a moment to recognize the significance of today, Veterans Day. This day serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made by our veterans, men and women who have served to protect our freedoms and ensure our way of life. As a school district, we are deeply grateful for their courage and commitment, and we honor their dedication to our country. At this time, I would ask any veterans in the room to stand so we may acknowledge you. Thank you to you and your families for your service. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In attendance, I believe we have the Emily Dickinson Choir. Is that correct? We would, yes, that's. Is Miss Mona Jackson in the house? Did someone just go out to get her? Is that what I saw? Okay. Thank you for coming. You're welcome to set up however you would like to. That would be great. Are we starting with the national anthem? Please stand. If the veterans in the room would like to stand, please do so.
Having us tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate the emphasis in music in our district and for the opportunities that it gives us. Thank you so much.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, kids. Thanks to your parents. I guess the only thing we don't have anymore is a photo op with the board with the new. That's a great question. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Give this a second here. Yeah. First item on the agenda, item 2.1, student representative reports. Gallatin High, Bozeman High, and Bridger, not in that order necessarily. Whoever would like to go first?
We would like to go first.
Excellent.
Hey everyone, I'm George Lynn, and this is
Neela Ward.
we're the representatives of the Bridger Charter Academy, and welcome us. So, with the introducing of Hawk Time, we've been able to incorporate our community in a lot more aspects than we did in previous years. Like our previous Bridger breakfast that we had earlier last month was one of the best turnouts of a Bridger breakfast. So we as a community are really liking this Hawk Time. And the day of Halloween, we had a get-together where we celebrated our Halloween festivity, where we got to have snacks, do some art there, do some charades, which was really fun, and see a bunch of teachers and students try and dance. That was a good watch. And recently, our counselor, R.D. Jenkinson, put together an outdoor walk, which allowed students and just students to go outside and walk around campus and get to know each other. We also had a community meeting, which allowed people to get together and make new friends with each other just in our room that we have that doesn't get a lot of use. And we recently also had a board game day, which, who doesn't like a good board game? And for those of you who are coming to this year's Thanksgiving celebration and walk past our community room, you might notice from previous years that it'll be more decorated. That's because our art teacher on Bridger, Vidmar, sets up a Hawk Time to decorate the room. So any of you who went last year will see a lot more decorated room this time, although that we will not be in there. And Neela is going to talk about our upcoming t-shirt design competition.
So the logo design for Bridger, as I brought up last time, so we had our first Hawk Time for that last Monday, and really that was just sort of to set the groundwork for what the process is going to look like. So we had about 12 students get together, whoever wanted to participate in redesigning this logo, and the first step of the process was first outlining what needs to be a part of a logo and really what it should look like. And then the students got to create little thumbnail drawings on their ideas on what they want the Bridger logo to look like. And so from here on, we're going to have more Hawk Time sessions dedicated to that, just to continue piecing together what we want the new logo to be and having it really be student-focused and community-focused to try and find something that represents Bridger Charter Academy as a whole. So yeah, that is going very well, but we're still in the sort of early stages of it. And as George mentioned a little bit, we have Bridger Thanksgiving coming up. The invitation should have been extended to all of you, and our student leader, or our teacher leader, Ms. Powell, has asked all of you to RSVP ASAP, sorry, too many letters, just so that we can get sort of an idea of how much pie we need. So it's going to be centered around community and gratitude and talking about what we are thankful for as Bridger Charter Academy. For those of you who have been there in the past, we are only having pie and cider this year just to be a little more allergy inclusive. It is Tuesday, November 26th. It's all afternoon. It's third and fourth period on that Black Day. Everybody in the community is welcome. And so yes, that invitation is once again being extended to all of you, and we really, really hope to see you all there. It is an amazing event. A couple of other things going on in Bridger is we have the Board of Public Ed visiting us on November 21st through second red period and lunch, and the goal is just to learn a little bit more about what Bridger Charter is and to visit classrooms. We have a couple pages in the yearbook dedicated specifically to Bridger Charter Academy this year. That's a new thing, and we're very excited for that. Really just to get, again, a little more recognition is the goal this year. The BCA teachers are working with Johanna Burtkin to better support students, and they are finding the learning through that incredibly valuable and are just extending their gratitude through that. That has been an amazing opportunity for them. And our teacher leader, Ms. Powell, and our counselor, R.D. Jenkinson, have been presenting to staff. They have so far talked to Bozeman High School and CJ, and will be going to Gallatin High School and Sacagawea Middle School just to provide more information on what Bridger Charter Academy is and all of the amazing things that it has to offer. Yeah, that's sort of the general rundown of what's happening in Bridger.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any trustee questions for the representatives from Bridger Charter? Gary?
Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent report. I'm curious, how many students are in Bridger Charter Academy this fall?
I'd say easily 50 or over.
Yeah, I don't have an exact figure, but I know that this year we have a lot more underclassmen just sort of getting the word out on what Bridger is, and there's definitely been a pretty significant increase in students enrolled in BCA.
Our sophomore class is our current biggest. The senior class, as me and Neela are in, is absolutely tiny. So we are glad to see that more underclassmen decide to take on Bridger as the challenge that they want.
Mrs. Clark?
I was just going to chime in, and when we did enrollment count a couple weeks ago, it was 101 students.
For clarification, I do remember receiving the invitation. I'm not sure I recognized that there's a need for an RSVP, and you need RSVPs from us, correct? Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming. Great report. Gallatin or Bozeman, you can decide.
Oh, we can go. All right. So it's your time for the favorite segment of the month. Time for me to talk about sports at Gallatin High School. So our girls cross country were the state champions. Claire Rutherford ended up three-peating of the individual state title, which is a impressive feat that not many people in Montana have accomplished. And Isabel Ross this year finished in second place with 3 other top 20 finishes from girls to win the state title. Boys finished 9th, were projected 11th, so they did better than most people thought they were going to. And then we had Bridger Warner as an all-state finisher. And then this weekend, cross country is heading to the Nike Regional Meet, where we'll probably see a lot of success from most of our top placers. Football just had our quarterfinals game against Helena High, and we will have our semifinals on Friday, where we will be playing a very competitive game with Glacier High School, and we were the Eastern Conference champs, so that was another piece of Gallatin history that was made this year. Volleyball is the #1 seed going to the state tournament starting this weekend on Thursday, and we are looking to be very dominant and hopefully win the state title. Girls soccer ended up finishing second place this year, and it is the 3rd finals appearance in the last 4 years. So they're continuing to keep up a lot of the excellent form they've had over the last 4 years and really starting to build a winning program. Our boys soccer finished in the semifinals this year, so it's been the 2nd straight season they've made it to semis. So it's showing that like our boys soccer is building a pretty successful winning program. Speech and Debate just had a kickoff tournament this last Saturday in Billings. Gallatin High School ended up finishing 2nd overall, which is our 2nd time in school history, and we've had many podium finishes and a lot of members of our team finishing within the top 8. The season is looking very bright for Gallatin High School, and our team is growing to massive numbers. I believe we are one of the biggest teams in the state, the 4 biggest teams in the state besides Bozeman High School, Glacier, and Flathead, and we are looking forward to a tournament this Friday and Saturday in Missoula, which will be very big and will range from AA schools to B and C schools, so it'll be a very competitive and good tournament, and hopefully Gallatin will continue a lot of the fine form we've had as of recent. Our Yetis team had their first state tournament of the year and did very well. They're projected to continue this fine form again the rest of the year. Basketball is beginning open gyms and weights to prepare for the season and hopefully boys repeat the state success we had last year and our girls win a state chip. Swimming is starting next week, and we're looking hopeful to, again, be very competitive in state. And then lastly, music has had its first concerts of the year. Band played a very sweet concert with MSU coming in with a very esteemed woodwind and like saxophone quartet playing as well. Orchestra has had a very successful early concert, as well as the Camerata Chamber Orchestra having a very successful concert. Choir has had their first concerts, and Double A Choir is today and tomorrow. So if you guys are, and that is combining with like other schools within like the state. So if you guys are interested in like going to that, the concert I believe is tomorrow. And then we recently had our all-state music conference where Gallatin High School had multiple top chairs in the orchestra and had a lot of very like important parts in the band. For the orchestra, we had 3 principals. So in the orchestra, Evie Westenscow was the principal's second violin. In the orchestra, Aaron Chun was one of the 4 concertmasters across the state and ended up having a solo in our final concert. And then I was also the principal violist. And then lastly, one thing we would like to highlight is the way our Raptors are representing themselves right now. We're cleaning up after ourselves at games and events and ensuring that we're leaving things better than we found them, which overall just shows that our Raptor community is classy and building towards just being more than a school. Sweet. Now I'll pass it over to Laszlo to talk about some of the stuff that we've put on for Stuco.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on. Lots of success with sports and music, as Pranchi said, but lots of other things happening as well. Earlier last month, pretty early in October, we had the Educators Conference at Gallatin High School, and we had an abundance of students from different activities and groups help and volunteer to set up, clean up, and kind of run the show. So super big shout out to all those students that helped out. A couple weekends ago, we had our Fall Festival, which was the first ever for our student council. It wasn't a huge turnout, but it was pretty big success on our end. Really well organized and pretty well executed by our group, so we're kind of hoping to make that a tradition going forward and really have a big community-wide event. So it was a good first start, good first event for traditions as far as that goes. We had a Halloween Spirit Week by request of many students, which was a pretty big turnout. Lots of fun. Our students really enjoy Spirit Weeks, and they kind of add a little something extra to the school day beyond just your classes. So lots of fun costumes and fun ideas for those Spirit Days. We also had a costume contest on Halloween put on by Student Council, which was a pretty big success. Lots of fun costumes and fun prizes, so it was also another good addition to the month of October. Upcoming, we have the Student Council Conference next week, which will be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which our officers and some from Bozeman as well will be there meeting with other student councils in the state and sharing ideas and different stuff we do throughout the year. So that'll be cool. We got some big drives that have been happening and are going on now. Our HOSA, which is our health occupations group, they compete at the end of the year in their competition, but they also do lots of different stuff throughout the year with their meetings. And one thing they do twice throughout the year is a blood drive, and this one was incredibly successful, raising over 80 liters of blood donated, which was huge and super impactful. And I believe it's every liter donated is 3 lives saved is the statistic they give you. So super huge, great work by them. Our Key Club is putting on food drive. It's a little crosstown competition with Bozeman High School. We do that every year. So we did win last year by a pretty wide margin, about 400 pounds, and so we're hoping to repeat that success. Not to mention just the great effort that goes out to Food Bank and helping support them through the holiday season. We do have several classes that are putting on a pretty good showing so far, with 4 or 5 classes already over 100 pounds in the first 2 weeks, and we do have 1 class that's already raised over 500 pounds individually. So lots of great success with our food drive and hoping to continue that up through the end of November. Our Spanish National Honor Society inducted new members last week, so we saw great success with them. They had a pretty large number of students inducted, which was pretty awesome to see. This past week, many of you guys were at GHS for the board luncheon. We had our advanced culinary cater that food, and I think everyone can attest to the fact that it was pretty great lunch. I enjoyed it. So good food. We really appreciate their work, as well as the students who spoke on that panel, just giving some insight into the life at GHS. In addition to that, we also recognized our veterans today during prime time, which is our additional segment of the day that we do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So teachers, we watched a video from Logan Springer, who many of you guys probably know. He was the student body vice president a couple years ago. He was class of 2023, and he's now attending the Naval Academy in service of our country. So we saw a video from him, and he talked with several people from around the Naval Academy, as well as his own words on what Veterans Day means to him. And we discussed that as a group within our first period Black classes. So it's really awesome to see some alumni kind of showing what it means to be Raptor, and then also just demonstrate the importance of our veterans. So super huge shout out. In addition to that, we had our annual honor wall, which is in the Commons along the windows to recognize members of the GHS community and their families who have given their life in service to our country.
Very good. Thank you, Laszlo and Pranchu. Are there any questions for the gentleman from Gallatin? That was very comprehensive. Thank you. Bozeman High.
Hi. Sorry about that. It is nice to see you guys again. Let's get this party started, and it will be a party. So, starting off with Stuco events, currently Bozeman High School is running a t-shirt competition, which is a very lovely event. I can speak as a winner in previous years. Where we have students submit designs that they either draw or graphically design, and the student body votes on which design they want to win. The top 3 designs are congratulated at an event, which I will talk about, and the winning design is printed out, and we shoot those t-shirts out of t-shirt cannons at unsuspecting students during games. So that is super exciting. We had in October, on Halloween, the teacher Halloween costume sort of fashion competition where we, Stuco members, judged who had the best costume. For those interested, it was a teacher dressed as Mike Wazowski and his baby. So that was super cool. We recently hosted freshman elections, got our freshmen elected, which is fantastic. It's super exciting. They're super ambitious already. There was a lot of people in the running, but we did unfortunately have to elect just 2. But it's super exciting. They're already showing ambition. They're already getting started on a teacher appreciation project that they came up with on their own. So that's super exciting to see that we have that kind of initiative sort of coming up through the Stuco ladder. We also had student council put on the blood drive on the 24th of October, which was super successful. We filled over 40 donation spots. I donated as well. And so I can attest it was super smooth operation. Everybody was having a good time. And we got a lot of donations. We saved a lot of lives, which is exciting to see all the Bozeman high school kids caring about that stuff. Looking forward, here's some pretty exciting news. We have been working together, which is rare, to combine what used to be our winter formal dances into a combined Valentine's Day dance between both schools on February the 7th. We're looking at venues right now. In the past, our winter formal dances have had low attendance. There's sort of been a stigma around them at both of our schools, that they're just kind of lame, maybe for underclassmen. So we thought we'd switch it up, throw out the winter formal title, call it a Valentine's Day dance, host it at a venue outside of either school, possibly live music. It's all in the works. We're talking about it, to hopefully get attendance up and possibly some cooperation between the schools could be good, maybe. I don't know. I'm skeptical about that part. Kidding. I love these guys. We've also got MASC, Montana Association of Student Councils Conference coming up this weekend. We'll be leaving on Sunday, getting back on Tuesday, where we can hopefully learn how to be a better student council, hopefully learn some tactics to implement some more student voice in our decision-making. So that's going to be super cool. We've got our Winter Talent Show coming up, which we host every year, which is where we will be announcing the winners of the t-shirt competition. Also, at the Winter Talent Show, we do a teacher rap battle. We're starting that tradition where a bunch of teachers compete in the upcoming weeks to the talent show, and then the two winners duke it out in a battle of words upon stage for all of the students' enjoyment and the teachers' embarrassment, which is going to be so cool. We're super excited for that, along with all of the student acts, so that we can really show off what makes Bozeman High School unique. You guys are all invited to that. We also have Winter Spirit Weeks coming up, and we have a mascot costume update, small update from Griffin.
Yeah, so our mascot costume process is going well. I've just been in contact with Booster Club. We're just working on splitting the costs, because right now it's about $8,000 to custom make and design one. So we're trying to do half and half. But I mean, like, if they don't do it, we're still going to get it anyway. But yeah. And now I'll talk about sports. So football, overall record is 6-4. We had a pretty good season. We lost some key players last year, but I thought we did pretty well despite that. Next year, I can guarantee we will beat Gallatin. Not a question.
100% chance.
100% chance. Hawk Boys soccer, yeah. Hawk Boys soccer, good season. We did lose to Hellgate in playoffs, but I can say I've went to many of their games, and they have a lot of good sophomores and juniors who stepped up and played varsity this year. So I'm excited to see what happens next year. Also had a few all-state player nominees. Hawk girls soccer, state champions, second year in a row. Who do we...
Oh, who's that?
Completely obliterated, and yeah, that's a technical term. Gallatin High School for the tape. Oh my gosh.
Was it Gallatin High School?
It was.
Oh my gosh.
Gallatin High School. We beat them for the title. It's our second year in a row with an undefeated season as well. So that's really great to see. We have a really, really strong girls freshman team as well. So next year we're looking to three-peat. Really excited there. Volleyball, we won our first playoff game against Skyview in 3 sets. And we play against Sentinel on Thursday, so that's exciting. Marching band competed in a national competition at Washington State, did very well. I think, yeah, this really shows them how much money we put into our arts and how it really pays off for the students. Our Yetis did well. They ended up getting second. Talked to a few of their coaches and their players, and they said they just had an awesome time. Like, they just love doing that, love getting out there and competing. Cross country, we had a 3rd place finish by Kylie Neal and a 5th place finish by Tula Higman. So those are some underclassmen who really stepped up. That's really impressive to see. And then cross country boys, we got a 2nd place finish by Tyler Neal, Nathan Neal's brother. So still runs in the family. Winter sports are also starting up for wrestling. We got a new coach. He has lots of experience, wrestled in Siberia for quite a while, so we're excited to see what that brings us. And we got some activities as well.
All right, going into activities. Our first speech and debate meet went incredibly. Policy took 1st, 2nd, and 3rd from Bozeman High School. We won informative speaking, humorous interp, and legislative debate. Those are just some of the highlights. Basically, we won. You can also talk to the lovely Neela for details. She's part of the team. Academic Olympics has a tournament in Frenchtown tomorrow. You're looking at 2 of the captains right here, so we're in good hands. That's going to be exciting. National Honor Society is inducting new members, along with Spanish National Honor Society, or Spanish Honor Society, which just had its induction last month, which is super exciting. And as mentioned by Laszlo and Pranchu, Key Club is putting on a food drive, which we are hoping to do very well in.
Yeah, and then finally we have our production, Singing in the Rain, just happened over the last week. Wonderful performance. Many people came out and saw it for multiple nights. Yeah, it just went really well. Once again, like, it's just great to see like our community values those arts, and I think that's important.
Because they are valuable. Thank you. That's our report.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions for the boys from Bozeman? Tanya.
I just have a comment. I'm glad you guys brought up Singing in the Rain. I went to it on maybe Friday night, And I have not smiled for an hour and a half like that in a really long time. And I would like you to take my appreciation and that of a lot of community members back to your schools, your teachers, the efforts that the students put into that. They must be exhausted. And it was so fun. So I just wanted to put a little shout out there to thank them for the time and talent that they shared with us.
We'll pass it on. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? I'm sensing that this is turning into a competition. Well, it's really, really great to get all this information from your buildings, genuinely. So, competition or not, thank you to all three of the buildings for being here. And as usual, you're welcome to stay for the next 3.5 hours. You're welcome to leave and go to your homework or whatever you have going on. So, thank you.
And the winner will be the one who stays, right?
That's right. Up next, recognition and awards. Item 2.2.1, ASBO Meritorious Budget Award for the 2024-25 budget document.
Good evening, trustees, members of the public. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm glad we've got a good audience here to recognize some of the accomplishments of Lacey Clark and our business office for this national award that we've received. This is the Association of School Business Officials Meritorious Budget Award. It's the 9th straight year that the district has received it. We take a lot of pride in not only doing things right for our district, but the way we do them, how we do them is also important. Transparency is huge for us. It's something we work hard on. We invest a lot of time and resources on, and this document is just another example of that. The budget document is a forward-looking document. It outlines and highlights all the decisions that went into the budget that we're currently in. We also have a comprehensive financial statement that we receive an award for. We'll be hearing about that later in January is when that one comes out. That one's looking back, historical information. So 9th consecutive year that the district has received this award. It's been fun for me to watch Lacey take it over, make it her own. She's made it better. I trust that you've read all 477 pages of it already, so I won't take you through every bit of it, but just know it's a great reference document, helps us remember our decisions, how we got to where we're at, and it's just a fantastic reference for you all, for us administratively, and for the public as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waterman. Any trustee questions? Gary?
No question, just a comment that this is one of the most important elements that I think for me as a trustee, I think the board has to have trust in as we make decisions, and you guys for years have done a very good job giving us accurate dollar numbers and budget predictions and all kinds of information. So thank you very much for what you do.
I agree. This is one of our primary functions as a school board. And the trust is totally there, and appreciate what you do, Lacey, so thank you very much. Trustee Black.
Well, Lacey, thank you very much for everything that you and your staff does. Mike, you mentioned a link. I can't find it in here. I spent most of the weekend looking for the 400 pages to read, but so I am disappointed in that. But
I'll tell you,
Lacey, your efforts are incredible.
This is Lacey had her efforts are incredible. This is actually the second time we did it. We did she did the document once in August, and then we had the change in the taxable value, and you remember that whole episode. Mm-hmm. So this is actually the second go around for this year alone. So lots of good practice.
All right. So again, thank you to all the staff that goes in and the time that goes into this. It's greatly appreciated. I move that the Board of Trustees adopt the following resolution. Whereas the district's long-range strategic plan core values state that we operate with honesty, use research-based decision-making, and provide open communication, and we are responsible in the management and the expenditures of all the district's resources. And whereas the Association of School Business Officials International awards a meritorious budget award for excellence in budget presentation, and whereas the MBA promotes the recognition best practices in school district budget presentations, district that applies to the MBA program recognizes the importance of presenting a high-quality, easy-to-understand budget internally and to the community. And whereas the attained of this award presents a significant accomplishment by the district, its management, and whereas Bozeman School District received the award for the 9th consecutive year for FY 2024 to 25 budget document, and whereas Directorate of Business Services Lacey Clark is primarily responsible for overseeing the completion of the budget. Therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Trustees recognize and honor Lacey Clark and the entire business service staff for an excellence in preparation of the district's annual budget document.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Black, seconded by trustee Wilson. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 0. Congratulations. Up next, 2.2.2. Are you going to gather in the hallway for a photo opportunity? I think that would be great. MHSA All-State Musicians. Is Mr. Birdall in the house? And if there's no Mr. Birdall, Mr. Ruffcorn is in the house. Excellent. Please come forward. Welcome. Thank you for coming. You can have a chair and hit the button that makes the microphone go green. And
Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Jeffrey Ruffcorn. I'm the band director at Gallatin High School, and I am here to help speak for the many musical teachers we have who can't be here because they've got a lot going on. There is, as we've said, the AA choir is going on right now, and then we have had a lot. I know, for example, Mr. Malchek, on top of AA choir, was also doing the musical and all of the other extra things that we do. These students that make All-State are some of the,
do you have any students here with you? And if so,
Yes.
can they come forward
Yeah, yeah.
with you while you're bragging about
Oh,
them?
yeah,
Okay, that would
absolutely.
be great.
We can bring all
We
the
could have all the
students.
MHSA
All of the
band
All-State
kids come
students.
forward. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Thanks,
you're
thanks,
fine.
Mr. Ruffcorn.
Yeah.
Continue.
So
Thank you.
these students are, as mentioned before, they are the best high school musicians in the state. Some of our students in the orchestra placed the top place in the entire state. We had even one student I know for band. I can't speak for the rest of them. I know band at Gallatin High School, William Carlson, placed at All-State all 4 years of his career now, which means that his first audition happened in his 8th grade year, going into 9th grade. So an accomplishment for students that find the extra work. These students are involved in athletics and extracurriculars, and they're in the top classes and have jobs, and yet they still find the time to practice and represent Bozeman School District. I don't know the numbers 100% off the top of my head. I know that Gallatin Band had 11 kids, Bozeman Band had 4, Gallatin Orchestra had 11. Miss Linda, I think, is back there too. Correct. There were, I don't remember how many, from Bozeman, how many? 7 from Bozeman Orchestra. And I'm not sure, I think the choir kids are here to help speak for that. But it's a big accomplishment 'cause we're still achieving great things in Bozeman music programs.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations. Any trustee questions for the All-State musicians? Sandy.
Would you mind sharing with us what do you think is the most important thing that you need to do to rise to the level that you have?
I think for music, it's just like we have 2, 3 really great teachers at Gallatin High School. So listening to their feedback and making sure you're like applying it to your playing, and then also a lot of our students here are putting a lot of work outside of like the actual conference itself, right? So you get the music about a month before, and you're tasked with just learning that music on your own or with a private teacher and then on your own. So a lot of our musicians were in the top places because they took the time to actually make sure their music was practiced and at the highest level possible. And it really just shows the dedication and then appreciation for like the arts from our students. And overall, I think that practice and just listening to feedback is what ensures that we are where we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been in music since 5th grade now, and like pretty much everyone else here. I think something that's really important to maintain would be the culture of the music in the school system, and to maintain that. I don't know, like if you guys want to plan future funding around maintaining that culture. I know there's been a concern about dwindling numbers in certain music programs throughout the district. That's all I just want to say. I think it's something that you guys should take priority in a little bit more. It's very important to me and to hundreds, thousands of families all over town. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have our holiday gala in December, which will feature many of these students. I know Galveston High School's gala is on December 19th, and Bozeman's is December 17th. But it does feature band, orchestra, and choir, so many of these students are in those top ensembles that will be performing on either of those nights. So.
Very good. Thank you. For those of you who are seniors, is band in your future after high school? Is music in your future post high school?
I guess I can talk. Yeah, so I'll be applying like a lot of colleges, but then like for a list of them, I'll be applying and auditioning for the music schools as well as applying to the school itself, because I've put so much time and effort into like trying to make my playing the best it can be for myself. So I think it's like an important part of my identity and something I want to continue to further like after high school. And then even if I don't end up going to music school, then I'll still be playing in orchestras and ensuring that it is like part of my future.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm good enough to consider violin as a career, but I'll definitely be applying for college, like scholarship-related stuff. I think just as sports will give students the opportunities for scholarships, music can do that as well, and I think that's something that people should look into more.
Before we move on to the reading of the award, Mr. Ruffcorn, I just want to say your facilitation of the pep band is another level. I really enjoy watching it, and thank you for the way that you do that with your drum and everything. So, Trustee Wilson.
All right, well, congratulations, all state musicians. It is my honor to recommend that the Board of Trustees adopt the following resolution. That whereas members of the Bozeman High and Gallatin High music programs have excelled as musicians through their hard work, dedication, and talent, and whereas they prepared and performed individual auditions, which were sent to MHSA Music Committee in the spring of 2024. From these auditions, top scoring students in the state of Montana were chosen to participate in all state ensembles. Whereas the students went on to perform at the All-State Music Festival at Skyview High School in Billings on October 16th through the 18th in 2024. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees recognize and honor Bozeman High School Band, Elsa Austin, flute, Daniel Peace, alto saxophone, Heidi Rich, flute, Mark Roberts, flute, Bozeman High School Choir, Alex Broker, tenor 1, Xander Bird, bass 2, Jonah Daniels, tenor 2, Oren Lorenz, bass 2, Nellie Monson, soprano 1, Lily Malchuk, soprano 1, Levi Pufel, bass 2, London Werner, bass 1, Bozeman High School Orchestra, Robert Black, violin, Colin Foley, cello, Sophia Gaskill, viola, Alexandra Hansen, harp, Florentine Kuntz, cello, Valentin Kuntz, violin, Jackson Matney Baggett, viola, Gallatin High School Band, Owen Ashcraft, bass clarinet, Kay Braun, alto saxophone, William Carlson, clarinet, Daniel Chen, tuba, Lily Dodge, clarinet, Anna Page Elwell, flute. Benjamin Gilmore, trombone. Susu Wynn, flute. Owen Schultz, oboe. Audrey Shaw, flute, and Sadie Swan, flute. Gallant High School Choir. Grant Clark, bass 2. Lyndon Hanson, bass 1. Olivia Haskell, soprano 1. Jonas Overton, bass 2. Evelyn Sundberg, soprano 2. Evelyn Vaughn, soprano 2. And Gallatin High School Orchestra, Aaron Chun, violin. Jackson Friedler, viola. Anastasia Grail, cello. Josephine Grail, string bass. Eden Hyatt, violin. Caden Jimerson, viola. Pranshu Krishna, viola. John Santiglia, violin, I hope I said that right. Adelaide Stern, cello. Sky Ting, violin, and Evie Westenskow, violin. Did I say that right? Yes. Second.
Motion made by trustee Wilson, seconded by trustee D. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much for coming. Thanks to your parents as well. Thanks, Mr. Ruffcorn. If we could have you all join trustee Wilson for a picture in the hall, that would be great. (2.2.3) 2024 National Speech and Debate Tournament Awards. Mr. Thane. Welcome, Mr. Thane. Would you like to bring your kids up with you? Did you bring your kids with you? We would love to have your kids join you if they're here.
Hello, trustees. Good to see you again at an odd time of year for us. Normally, we're here after the state tournament and national qualifier for recognition, but this summer we had something happen that has never happened before in Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, or Oregon. So we figured we'd let you know how we did at the national tournament. This is a small percentage of the crew that we took down to Des Moines, Iowa in June. I think we took around 29 total. I think there are 13 of them behind me. Likewise, 2 of my assistant coaches are here, Jake Hoskins and Max Hatton. 2 more are, Lila Michael, who trustee Reinhardt just shouted out to as the director of Singing in the Rain, is working and coaching and breaking down sets and things like that. And then another assistant coach, Emily Daniels, is a flight instructor, and she's up risking her life in the skies above us with new pilots right now. So this crew is the culmination of, I think it was 55 years of Bozeman High School qualifying students to the national tournament for the National Speech and Debate Association. And what the Bruno Jacobs Trophy recognizes is the school in the nation who has the highest number of rounds competed at by students at nationals over time. And so, though we're not the first people to win it, we are the first people in the Northwest to win it. And if Bozeman keeps going at the rate that we're going now after I'm gone, it should be maybe 20 years rather than 55 until we win it again. So the program is going very well. We're quite young as well. I know we have a total of 2 seniors on our team. The COVID recruiting year dip hit us especially hard, but we have, I think right now, 95 kids who are participating. So next year, if recruiting goes anything like it has been, we'll be back at or above pre-COVID and pre-split numbers at Bozeman High. So this is the crew, or part of the crew that went down to nationals for that final year. We had some great individual performances. We had students breaking to elimination rounds, and we also had a World Schools debate team that placed in the top 16 in the world out of over 200 teams from every state and 6 different countries. On the way, they beat the returning champions, that was China. And so our little Montana public school took down the Chinese World Schools debate team, which was kind of a cool thing to put as a notch on our belt, as it were. I think that speaks to the support that Bozeman schools have always had for academics and the arts. What Pranshu Krishna said, and the other guy who stumped for funding, who I don't know, was very true. I mean, what has always set Bozeman apart is our academics and our arts and our speech and debate. We appreciate that you all have continued that tradition, and we hope that you continue it as the years go down. I can introduce them all to you if you would like, or we can just say as a group they're a phenomenal bunch of kids, and it's the thing that keeps me coming back year after year.
Thank you very much. Your presentations are always top-notch, Mr. Thane. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Neal.
Any trustee questions for the kids or Mr. Thane? Sandy?
I would like to hear your name and the year that you were in school and what you competed in, or what your passion is as far as speech and debate, if you don't mind.
Let's start shortest to tallest.
Hi, my name's Reagan. I'm the shortest on the team. I'm also a junior, and I do interp, and the categories of that I do is program, oral interp, and duo interp.
My name is Avery, I'm also a junior, and I do policy debate.
My name's Poppy, I'm also a junior, and I compete in policy debate, but I competed in World Schools and Nationals.
I'm Kaylee, I'm a senior, I do policy debate.
My name is Neela, I am the other senior, and I also do policy debate.
I'm River, I'm a freshman, and I compete in... I'm a sophomore.
You were a freshman.
I was a freshman when I was at Nationals, in which I competed in humorous interp.
Hi, I'm Siri. I am also a sophomore. I compete in oratory and dramatic interpretation this year. I did oratory at Nationals last summer.
Hi, I'm Quinn. I competed in program oral interp at Nationals, and my other event is dramatic interpretation.
My name is Phoebe. I'm a junior. I normally compete in public forum or policy debate, but at Nationals I was part of the World Schools team.
I'm Jet. I'm a junior. I competed at congressional debate at Nationals.
I'm Nathan Andecker. I competed in legislative debate and at Nationals congressional debate, and it's been a joy to watch all of you guys follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Hey, I'm Thomas Meltzer. I competed in the 2024 National Speech and Debate Tournament in United States Extemporaneous Speaking, and other than that, I do short preparation.
And you forgot to mention he's a junior.
And I'm a junior.
I'm Cooper White. I'm a junior. I compete in Lincoln Douglas debate, and at the Nationals tournament, I was part of the World Schools team.
Thank you.
Tanya?
Could we ask them just to step forward a little? Because I'm trying to take a cool picture, and these dudes are behind the...
See if you can gather between the columns.
Thank you.
Including all coaches, please.
Yes, coaches too. Thank you.
I don't have to try.
It is important to note that Max Hatton is our Anderson representative, so we'd like to give a nod to Trustee Wilson for being a great teacher and inspiration.
Thank you for dressing up to come to our school board meeting. You look really nice, and that's really overachieving in my opinion, but thank you. Any further trustee questions? Gary?
No question, just a comment of how much I appreciate our speech and debate program and culture, obviously due to head coaches and assistant coaches that help guide you as students. But I'm always impressed with how confident you present. I think you're confident in yourself and going to be a real asset to our society as we move forward. So keep up the good work, and thank you, coaches and parents, for supporting this program.
Trustee D. Oh, who has the award? I'm sorry.
I do, if
Oh,
that's all right.
Trustee Reinhardt. Sorry about that.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt the following resolution. Whereas the Bozeman High School Speech and Debate team participated in the 2024 National Speech and Debate Association High School National Tournament held in Des Moines, Iowa on June 17th through the 21st, and whereas the following Hawkers were competitors when Bozeman High School won the Bruno E. Jacob Pi Kappa Delta Trophy by accumulating the largest number of cumulative rounds at the National Speech and Debate Tournament. Nathan Andecker, Siri Bateson, Jet Borger, Phoebe Cross, Quinn Fastnow, Brady Foster, Sam Funderburk, Tara Gallagher, Avery Harris, Poppy Capanum, Valentin Kuntz, Chandler May, Tommy Meltzer, River Myers, Emerson Ritter, Maren Schultz, Ray Roberts, Cameron Taylor, Kaylee Tedesco, Quinn Warner, Cooper White, M. Williamson, Jude Wolf, and whereas Adam Thane received the Albert S. Odom National Coaching Commendation and the Bruno E. Jacob National Coaching Association Commendation. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees recognize and honor Nathan Andecker, Siri Bateson, Jet Borger, Phoebe Cross, Quinn Fastnow, Brady Foster, Sam Funderburk, Tara Gallagher, Avery Harris, Poppy Kappenman, Valentin Kuntz, Chandler May, Tommy Meltzer, River Myers, Emerson Ritter, Maren Schultz, Ray Roberts, Cameron Taylor, Kylie Tedesco, Quinn Warner, Cooper White, M. Williamson, and Jude Wolf, and Adam Thane for these accomplishments.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Reinhardt, seconded by Trustee Lucine. You all can tell me if there's any public comment behind you. I can't see. Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks to your parents. And please join Trustee Reinhardt in the hall for a picture before you leave. We have some student teachers in the house. All three of you? Great, thanks for being here. You gonna go the distance, or? Okay. 2024 MTSBA Marvin Heinz Awards. Superintendent Bertram.
Part of what makes Bozeman Public Schools highly effective is a engaged school board. Very appreciative of our school board, who consistently puts in efforts outside of your normal duties to do professional development via Montana School Boards Association. Montana School Boards Association at the annual MSL conference gives a variety of awards. One of them is the Marvin Heinz Award, bestowed to those individuals who have reached the highest level of trustee certification, which is gold level, through the School Board Academy, which means that you've accumulated over time 96 hours of training. We've had other trustees previously win the award. This year, honorees were Trustee Leanna Bertelson, Kevin Black, and Greg Neal were 2024 recipients of the Marvin Heinz Award.
This is awkward. Does anybody have any questions for Trustee Black or me? Pat ourselves on the back and move forward, I guess, here. Gary.
I have a motion. First of all, I agree with Casey. I really appreciate the time we all put in as a board member, but for the three winning this award, when I was at MSL, I think I'm correct in that we're the only school board in the state that had 3 people win this award this year. So, and I think that does recognize the commitment we have of our board members. So thank you very much. So with that, I move the following resolution. Whereas the Marvin Heinz Award is bestowed on those individuals who have reached the highest level of trustee certification, gold level, through the School Board Academy program with an accumulation of 96 hours of training. Whereas trustees Leanna Bertelson, Kevin Black, and Greg Neal were named 2024 recipients of the Montana School Boards Association Marvin Heinz Award at the annual MCEL conference in Missoula on October 17th, 2024, and therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees recognize and honor trustees Leanna Bertelson, Kevin Black, and Greg Neal for this accomplishment.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Lucine, seconded by trustee Wilson. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. I think we'll skip the photo in the hall and move on to board education. Farrier and Hillary, please come forward.
Trustees, I had the opportunity to meet with these two a couple weeks ago, and we have over 500 students identified in gifted education across the district, and we have a 2-person team. And when they started walking through all they are doing and plan to do, I said the trustees need to hear about this. There's a lot of amazing things going on. Welcome Hillary Klug and Farrier Shockley to give you an update on all things gifted programming in Bozeman Public Schools.
Well, thank you all for sticking around. I was so excited when I got here and saw how many people had come to hear our presentation, but there are still a few of you left. Thank you. Farrier is taking a moment to pass something out. It's a little activity, get your brains thinking as we move into our presentation, and I promised Mars that I would keep this to exactly 15 minutes. So I'm going to set myself my little timer and make sure that when it goes off, it will be Farrier's next activity.
Do you want me to explain this?
Yep, so she's going to explain and kick us off, and thank you so much for having the 2 of us here.
So I work with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that are identified as gifted. And so what you're seeing is a squiggles, and it's just like an opening activity I do at the beginning of the year or periodically to work on creativity. Unfortunately, in schools, it's hard to spend a lot of time on creativity in your regular classroom. I've been there. And so what happens is they're supposed to make this squiggle and do something different. So as we're doing this 15-minute thing, you can feel free to squiggle away. Normally I give them 4 minutes and then we come back and share. But the goal is to make something different that somebody else would not make. So this is not somebody's hairdo. So as you're looking at this and you're are working on it, to make it into someone's hair would not be something different.
Well, thank you so much. This is something that we hope that you guys will take competitively and work on while we're talking. It's okay. We can multitask, and so can you. So be creative and think things through, and don't mind, Farrier next to me is setting something else up. So the first thing is for our PEAKS program, and PEAKS is our gifted and talented program. We do have OPI and administrative rules that sort of governs this, but we believe as a whole, all students should be challenged at their appropriate level, that an equitable identification process must be employed, and that learner growth, equitable assessment, and identification and enrichment opportunities are essential components of our programming. So with that being said, Farrier and I have really tried to emphasize as much as we can working with students. We also work with teachers, but I thought you might like to hear most about how we work with students. Here we are. We're both longtime educators, and I know we've been in front of you before, at least I have in different capacities, but 28th, 27th year of teaching, we're parents of kids who've gone through the schools or are currently in the schools. And notably, Farrier is certified gifted. We don't have that in Montana, and so that's something different, and she taught a pull-out class in Georgia. But we are having a lot of fun, and I'm going to try to highlight that here. This graphic is just a way to encapsulate how we identify students. So in the next slides, I'll show you how many there are. But essentially, when we're identifying students, we do a universal screening in 3rd grade, and we have switched the test. Last year we piloted it at our 3 Title I schools, and this year we will be rolling it out to everyone. And this test is designed to eliminate bias and to reach our non-native speakers, our dyslexic students, our high poverty students, et cetera. And in our pilots last year, we found that to be true, which is really exciting for us, and that's part of one of our visions. We look at achievement, we do observations, we take referrals, and recognize prior identification in other districts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but these are some sample types of questions that students might see in 3rd grade. And I put a couple different ones on there. Actually, the analogy is from 5th grade. But a couple of these so you can kind of see the different ways that we're tapping into the way kids are thinking. The nonverbal thinkers can really surprise us. They're not usually the ones that we expect in our classrooms as teachers, and they sort of pop out and are able to very quickly figure out that middle one. That's a middle of the road question, and they get much more complicated, so kind of fun. By the numbers, thought you would be interested to know that we have about 10% of our 4th and 5th graders are identified as gifted. 14% of our 6th through 8th graders meet the criteria, and that equals like 107 4th and 5th graders, 217 6th through 8th graders, and 194 9th through 12th graders. We'll be testing 3rd graders next week and can add to our numbers. But as you can tell, this is a challenge and something that our teachers have been working toward for a long time. But the challenge is, how do we meet the needs or provide services to this many students with just the 2 of us? But we're really proud to say that we are doing an awful lot with our time. So we are currently serving 382 students in grades 4 through 8. So 382 students are receiving at least 30 minutes of additional direct services to extend and enrich their learning each week, and it's just the 2 of us. So Farrier meets with all 107 4th and 5th graders, and she also is working with 3rd graders before students are identified or do the testing to enrich their learning and get them to think creatively and sort of even out the playing field. And I'm meeting with students at Sacagawea and Chief Joseph. I have 1 day a week at both of the middle schools, in addition to my other coordinator duties. I've taken the time out to do that so I can work with students. And I meet with 185 students each week, so 30 minutes, because we use the block schedules during that intervention extension time. At the middle schools, I've been able to do both push-in and pull-out. So I'll talk about that more with a different slide. And then the high school students have so many opportunities, but there are 4 GATE-specific courses at both high schools, and then I have a slide that shows some things that they've been doing. Here's a picture of them. You saw some of them here for Academic Olympics, Science Olympiad, all these different competitions that students are able to participate in. EconoQuest was just last week, and Amy Wallner-Drake led her teams to great presentations. We are bringing back something called the Successful Learner Grants, which is a way for us to use some of the money that we have allocated for high school students This is something that existed and that I was able to mentor several students when I taught at Bozeman High. And I thought it was important to bring that back, so we'll be rolling this out. The teachers know about it, so students can apply to study and learn something in an independent way and get a small grant to do that, or to inspire them and continue. There's a picture there of our Yellowstone trip. Annually, ninth graders at both GHS and BHS are able to come to Yellowstone Park for an interdisciplinary trip where we do different debates on the dueling mandates and the wolves and all different kinds of things there. And then just briefly mentioning the partnership that we have with Montana State University. I will share a little bit more of that when I talk about the elementary students, but we do have 21 seniors this year who are participating in the research symposium at the Honors College and often have opportunities to meet with speakers with their teachers. We'll bring them over to the Honors College at MSU, and that's been becoming really robust partnership and something that we all really value. Here's some pictures of my middle school students. At both schools, we're doing some Word Masters. We have done some quests, which are part of the Amplify curriculum. We've done some podcasting. We're making tiny houses. Another picture there is the banana pianos, a favorite, using the Makey Makey kits. And I just mentioned for Sacagawea, we are trying something new. So in the fourth block, I'm actually going to every sixth grade ELA fourth block, so 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, so all students in that block are getting the Word Masters. It was something that the Sacagawea teachers wanted to try, and I'm more than willing to do it. So one thing that you'll notice is we've been just really open to trying new things and working with teachers. Having both been teachers for a long time, we know what they might need, and we try to support them and be flexible because everybody has different needs and different ideas, so we've been having a lot of fun with that. I love the tiny house, by the way. It's my favorite. This is a little bit more of our partnership with MSU. I teach a class at the Honors College, and it's each semester, and Pat helps me with their background checks. We pair an honors student with a Bozeman School District 4th or 5th grader, and the two of them come up with something, the rules basically, they learn and they create, and they come up with so many different things. And the students I work with at MSU are not future teachers of America. They are engineers and medical, they're pursuing medicine or nursing or psychology or agriculture. So it's been really fun for us to pair them up. And as you can see, there's a couple great projects here. If any of you have ever been, it's a wonderful event, but we host a showcase on our last day of class in lieu of an exam. So that will be December 9th. And it's at the Honors College in our classroom. If you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome. These are some pictures, and I included the drawing in the lower corner there, is a levitating broom. I'm so excited to see this. I saw the MSU student at the football game this weekend, and he said that he'd been laminating the broom because the glue is too strong to use at the school. So I can't wait to see how they make the broom levitate, and I'm sure that the student is equally as excited. So those are a few photos of our partnership there with Montana State, and we also have been trying to host some days when all these, this is just so you know, that's just so that I know that Farrier has a little time to do her activity. So I set that, so there, it's not 15 minutes yet. But these are some opportunities we bring students here on the PIR days. We've only done 2 so far this year, but they were both great. The first one was for middle school students, and we partnered with the Yellowstone Writers Project and did a writing camp, basically. So that's a picture of some of them on the lower column. And then just on November 7th, the other day, we had 4th graders and then 5th graders come, and they did STEM activities. And I saw a parent this weekend who told me that her daughter immediately went home and blocked off half of their house with caution tape and do not touch signs, and made a much bigger version of the roller coaster that they had done on on Thursdays. So that's really what we aim to do. 30 minutes with students isn't quite enough, but our role and our job and what really excites us is igniting a spark in the students and getting them excited about continuing their learning. So we're very appreciative that the board was, and that the community was able to approve the extra position, and we are trying to give all of you and our community the biggest bang for your buck that we can. And of course, we would always take more teachers if you're interested, but for now, we are meeting with a lot of students. So our last slide is our elementary slide, and Ms. Shockley is gonna end with an activity for you.
Hi. Okay, so during the elementary school time, I spend about 45 minutes a week with each group, and I have about 28 groups a week that I work with. So it's a constant like drive around and getting places, but we start off with social emotional learning so they can learn about how their brain thinks a little differently. We're doing a SPY unit right now that has a lot of mini lessons with primary source documents, STEM, research, and then algebra, which I'm going to show you. We're going to do some coding, and we're also going to build Arctic dog sleds and hopefully race them in the snow. That is the plan. Thank you all for who helped last year with our Shark Tank. That was super exciting, and the kids loved it. Some of them were fantastic, some of them not so much. So one of the things that we do is I teach hands-on equations, which is algebra. It starts off pretty basic. So it goes from concrete to pictorial to abstract. So yeah, you have little pieces. We start off, so this is only the third year. So the first year, 2 years ago, we started off with the third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade all learn the same thing. And then since they keep moving up, now this year's third graders they're now fifth graders, and the goal is to get this far, to be able to do an algebra problem like that. Today, Hillary is like, you solve it. And I'm like, I haven't gotten that far yet. But they all can solve this right now. So I thought I would show you how this problem would be solved if you want to try it.
And then as she's getting ready, I do want to say that I ran into a little girl who goes to math intervention during her school day and also meets with Farrier, and she told me, do you know what? Algebra is so easy. Division is kind of hard, but algebra is really easy. And I believe it's because of this. So have fun with this.
So I teach them the legal moves, and we talk about what's legal and what's not legal. Like wearing your seatbelt is legal. And then we go through the different steps. So this is probably towards the end of the second session. Or not the second year of doing this. So 2x plus 4 plus 3 stars equals 2 stars plus 15. So you would set it up. Sorry. I move around a lot. No, you're good. So it would say x plus 4.
But it says set yours up if you'd like.
If you want to do it, you can do it with us. But then it says 2x plus 4. So teaching them to do it 2 times. Or
The red is positive.
yes, for now. Yes. So it's 2x plus 4, or you can say 2x plus 8, and then plus 3 stars. So 1, 2, 3. And then 2 stars plus 15. And then you go through your legal moves. So the legal moves, the first legal move is you take equal amounts of stars or x's, so I can take 2 from both. And we make a big deal about going, woo, because otherwise they'll just kind of take 1 at a time. And then we talk about also the star and the x cancel each other out, and so you do that. And then you can take equal amounts of the whole number from both sides. So
The
8
what?
take away 8
The
is
star and
0.
the X? Say that again?
Yeah, they cancel each other out.
Okay.
The star and the X.
The
So
star
like
and
a
the
blue
X.
and a
Oh,
white.
yeah, okay, got
The
it.
star and the X cancel each other out, and it's just a pictorial representation of a negative number. So, sorry, I'm going fast because our time's really up. So 8 take away 8 is 0.
No, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. 15 take away 8 is 7. And so X, that is wrong. That is wrong. It's supposed to be star. Sorry. Star, maybe I'll do it again. Y'all are making me nervous. Star is 7, and so X would be -7. And to check it, it would be 7 plus 4. And then they learn how to do all this times 2. So that's 11 times 2. So it's 22 plus negative 21. No, I just did it wrong.
No, it's right.
I think I got it backwards. Okay, negative 21. So it's 1. And then the other side is negative 14 plus 15. So they learn is equal to 1.
So if there's a little mistake, it's okay.
Sorry.
We know sometimes a little nervous presenting, but as you can see with the manipulatives,
it makes it a whole lot easier. I
it's
can do it
really,
again.
it's just a fun way for the students to really visually start to understand, and they know the legal moves. So when she says, you know, oh, and then we'll do this legal move and that legal move, they know those. They learn those in the beginning, so they know what to do. And then at the end, they check their answers. And so in the picture here, you can see some of the kids working on it with.
Yeah, no, I had it right originally, but I made myself nervous.
I know.
Anyway, sorry.
You're right.
Right, so that is what we do with the
We're gonna try
answer.
the really hard one.
Yes,
so.
but the really hard one is something we're gonna be doing this year, but same kind of thing. And that's when they'll start using the green dice to take out the different types of negative numbers. It's a great way to learn. The kids love it. They think it's super easy, but of course we go through steps of learning each legal move and going that way. So, anybody want to share their picture? You don't have to. Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, bird. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and ice cream.
Mine's a combo
That's-
of a raptor hawk hatching.
Okay, that's good. Nice.
That's really good.
That's
Good-
really good.
Good job. And so normally they go around and share.
And I use my non-dominant, so I love it.
But it's
It's good. We don't even have prizes. It's just the glory of being creative. And I hope that you feel good about it. I guess we're supposed to have this on. So thank you guys so much for giving us the opportunity to share what we're doing with you. We're super proud of ourselves. And we're very grateful for the opportunity to kind of tell you about what we're doing. Please come anytime and see what we're up to. Actually, you have to give Farrier a warning so she knows.
Get a little nervous.
And we'd love to see you at MSU. Does anyone have any questions, or is that part of your thing? I don't know.
We will take questions. Sandy?
Is there a parent part to this?
Yes, there is. A parent and teacher. So we work with both parents and teachers. And for example, with the teachers, we do different professional development. I'll be presenting at the Sacagawea staff meeting on Wednesday to talk about depth and complexity and to teach them how they can provide enrichment for their question 4 students is how we phrase that in line with the MTSS and the PLCC questions. So that's our work with teachers. And with parents, we have a parent meeting every fall at each school with the principals at the school and invite the parents in, share with them, and try to get them involved and be able to ask us questions. But we do like the parents to really focus on the principals, because most of the work is happening in the schools and with their classroom teacher. So want to make sure that that's the first place they go. But we do teach them to be trainers and do Word Masters. If any of you have ever been a volunteer for Word Masters or CML, that's still happening, and try to do some robust training there. So far, we haven't heard from a lot of complaining parents, so that makes us feel like we're doing a good job.
Gary?
Yeah, thank you very much. I have 2 questions. One is, how is teaching in the PEAKS program different than like a regular classroom teaching experience? That's the first question. The second question is, if you could structure the Peaks program in an ideal manner, what would that be? What would you do?
Well, those are great questions. Thank you. For me, teaching the Peaks program is very different from teaching high school English. One of the main differences for me is that I don't grade papers all night and all weekend anymore. So that's a big ask and lift for English teachers, especially, and I don't miss it really. I miss the students and I miss the teaching part, but the outside workload is really different, and I imagine that to be true for other levels as well. Also, it's harder to get to know the students because, like for me, I just see them for half an hour, one day a week. Farrier gets to know them and much better, but my groups are really big, so that's different for me. And I get to do all fun things. We get to do like a math challenge building a tiny house. It's something really fun and really interesting and challenging, but it's not necessarily part of the core curriculum. So both are important in my mind, but I get to do the fun stuff. And I don't know, Farrier?
It's very different than teaching first grade, which is what I taught for the past 10 years here. In a perfect world, where I came from in Georgia, it was fully funded by the state of Georgia. So it was a pull-out program. So there were 16 elementary gifted teachers in my district. Again, it was fully funded by the state. And so on Mondays and Tuesdays, I would have all the first and second graders. And it was a different program. It was an enrichment as well as an extension program that we developed. So a lot different. But what I love about this is when I go to the school, I'm rolling my cart full of hot glue guns and math and scribbles and all of this, and they're like, hey, oh, it's our day, yes. And if I come in like a minute late because I had to go to the bathroom or something, they are like, yes, I was waiting on you, where are you? And I was like, I had to go to the bathroom. So they're just so excited to do the alternative things that teachers aren't able to do anymore. Sorry.
And then you asked about if we could do anything, what would we do? I think that's a hard question because I think that there's a role for all these different aspects of education, all four questions in the PLC. And I do think that the question 4 is extremely important. I don't believe that it's only gifted students that need question 4, and I also don't believe all gifted students probably need the question 4 all the time, but it is amazing to see the students think outside the box when given the opportunity. And so when I get to go into the algebra class and teach it to all the students in the algebra class with Miss Hayden, we're all doing the tiny house because they have extra time in middle school algebra compared to the high school algebra. They have it 90 minutes every day versus high school has it 80 minutes every other day. So they have some extra time. So I'm doing it with all the students, and we look at that as a question 4 opportunity. So if we could expand our teaching capacity to have someone in every school that is able to provide that kind of enrichment and standards extension, I think that would be ideal. I would love to have one day, like every so often, to have all the kids come together, because when we do that for the PIR days, they really enjoy it. And some of the schools have a very small group, and so it's really fun for them to be with like-minded peers in a bigger group. So more opportunities like that. And my big dream for this year is that I would like to take a field trip of students to Lagoon for their physics day, and so that they can learn physics with all the professors that come to Lagoon for the day in the spring. And I am actively fundraising for that, and I might regret it, but I remember doing that as a kid, and I'd like to provide that. So we could talk forever, but I'm sure you guys don't want to be here for 4 hours, so.
Are the numbers different than they've been in the past? The numbers that you gave, there's a lot of kids. Is this a growing program or?
I think so, yeah. I've only been in this role, this is my third, for the two of us, we've only been doing it for 3 years. So I can't really speak to what the numbers were previously. We feel really good about our new testing. And last year, for example, at one of our Title I schools, we identified 2 students who were homeless. And at a different school, an English language learner. So we feel good about trying to expand the population. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you. Up next, consent agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve items 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4.
Second it.
Motion made by trustee Black, seconded by trustee Reinhardt. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 6-0.
I move we approve 3.5.1 and 3.5.2.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Reinhardt, seconded by trustee D. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Action item 4.1.1, consider resolution establishing district legislative priorities. Superintendent Bertram.
Thank you, Chair Neal. This has been an ongoing conversation as we gear up for the 2025 legislative session. Reminder that on September 11th, 2023, the trustees adopted 3 resolutions for consideration by the legislature. And then on October 14th of 2024, this board revisited these resolutions in light of additional proposals being generated in Helena. At that time, we talked about what the camps group was churning on. We also talked about the STARS Act being proposed by Representative Jones and Beatty. And then in further conversations, we have boards across the state beginning to churn on formal action and resolutions gearing up for the legislative session. I've been in conversation with AA superintendents. Billings recently passed a resolution with 2 parts for the 25 legislative session. Mr. Waterman and I are in contact with Brian Ayers at Manhattan, who is the chair of our Four Rivers Mass Superintendent Group, and are talking about joint resolutions there. So what we've provided for you today is a recommendation. It goes through the whereas, talk about Article 10 of the Montana Constitution. There's a section in there about non-delegation in the Constitution, and then you're all aware of 29309 that defines the basic system of public ed, and then the legislature is tasked with funding that basic system. The camps group in their proposals has been focused on this inflationary shortfall, estimated $141 million or 10% of general fund budgets according to MTSBA. We are seeing across the state, but heightened in Bozeman due to cost of living, our district's ability to recruit and retain high-quality educators. Can't afford to live here, no matter where you're at on the pay matrix. And then we've seen AA districts en masse across the state going through significant budget deficits and shortfalls and working through solutions. A reminder, the 3 resolutions that were adopted by this board for the 2023 session had to do with cost of living increases in high-cost areas, had to do with the system, the definition of the system to include all those factors that are not currently included in the definition, like high school activities and athletics, school nurses. And then the third one was changing how we have conversations around education, which trustee Lucine is championing. So what we're bringing to you today is a 5-part resolution. First part, advocating for funding, a funding formula that does what the Constitution says it should do, fully meeting Article 10 of the Constitution, urging the legislature to review the definition of quality education. As you know, the 2025 legislature is tasked with the decennial study to look at the funding formula and urging the legislature to take an active role in really studying that. This board has been ongoing, making recommendations that we need other revenue sources, and that we are experiencing, certainly during this year with all the things that went down with the 95 mills and the reappraisal, property tax fatigue is widespread. Number 4, I think, is a really important one. If you go to the Montana legislature sort of bill hopper, where bills are being, placeholders are being set, there are all types of privatization and vouchers and charters included already as placeholders. We've shared that we're seeing a very similar path to what happened in the state of Arizona, where it starts as a small special education savings account and then turns to widespread vouchers. And so number 4 is about keeping public dollars in public schools. And then number 5 is engaging during the session and with our local legislators. We typically host a legislative breakfast, and we're having conversations with Brian Ayers and the Four Rivers superintendents about whether we want to expand that to more of a regional conversation with all of our local legislators that we share, or if it's a Bozeman-specific conversation. I'm hopeful we can expand it to include more superintendents, more board members across our region. Questions? Mr. Waterman, anything else? Okay.
Kevin?
Thank you, Casey, for all information. I have 2 questions. One, you mentioned Arizona. Has that, and you might not know, but has that actually ended up in saving them money like they thought it was going to, or?
Yeah, great question. The information I have is that those costs have ballooned over time. So what started as a small education savings account then turned to more widespread vouchers, and has really hampered the state's ability to keep up with that. So they made the vouchers available to special education families, then other families, and that bill has ballooned to the point that they're making significant cuts in their public education system to keep up with the vouchers.
And then my other question is, currently with the Montana system with the vouchers, how does that family prove that their student is still meeting like that year's?
There's no requirement for that. You apply that you have a student with special education needs. It's a kind of a goofy thing where the family has to waive their right to FAPE. So we take they are no longer served by the local public school. We believe constitutionally and legally a family can't waive their right to FAPE. FAPE is FAPE, free appropriate public education. Our concern is that they disengage from the public school. They use the voucher for whatever. We hope it's well used. And at some point, when it's not working well, they re-engage for all the services that the school district can provide. So certainly the voucher that they receive in no way equals the dollar amount that a special education student would be provided for all the resources we have available: OT, PT, speech, classroom teacher, special educator, school psychologist, all the whole enchilada.
Thank you.
I think the other piece in Arizona is they've documented widespread abuse of those vouchers, and so it's really up to the parent to determine what's in the best interest of their child for that education, but that we saw, sort of the worst case scenarios of, glorified field trip experiences, Disneyland and hot air balloon rides and bouncy houses at birthday parties and all the things that kids love, but are probably not the most important to them making progress in their disability areas.
Casey, the number 3 encourages the legislature to explore and improve alternative tax and funding methods. So I'm not sure who this question should be directed to, but is this, are we tasking the state with reinventing the wheel, or is there a state in the country that does a better job with funding education than Montana, that there's a model that exists that can be emulated, or what are the thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I think there are lots of different models. So, Farrier talked about all students in Georgia getting gifted education services, that, robust gifted education. That's funded in some way. So whether that's local option sales tax, whether that's lottery, whether that's marijuana tax, there's a variety of ways for revenue. But when we went through sort of the hardship of the 95 mills, and the more we dig into Montana school finance, that general fund expenditure from the state of Montana is property taxes and income taxes, and that's the only two buckets they're playing with.
If I can just add, one of the ideas that we're hearing is to address cost of living and teacher recruitment and retention in high cost of living areas, is to allow schools to ask their local voters for more general fund budget authority. Well, that's all well and good, but as we approve higher taxes, that just increases our cost of living problems. It just creates a circular argument that doesn't really address the root of the problem. So hopefully we look at the amounts that are high wealth areas like Bozeman, high property wealth areas are contributing to the state as a whole, and can get some of that money back to help us with our own problems that we've got in our own local areas.
I'm going to go in the weeds. But wasn't there a law at one point that the timber industry, all of the money from the sale of timber from public land was supposed to go to education in Montana? Was that a legally binding law, and is that still happening?
I don't remember that it was all of the timber sales, but there was timber money that came to schools, and it's been a while since that's happened. That was all rolled into block grants into the state general fund in the mid-2010s, like 2015, 17. So it kind of became de-identified and just became more state money that went into education. So it did happen. It's gone now, and we've just been replaced with state funding.
Gary?
I support this resolution and all the elements in it. There's some of this that is relating to kind of what my effort is, our effort. I've been working with some very reliable, knowledgeable people kind of behind the scenes, legislative staff and stuff. And I think it's going to be a challenging session. From a funding standpoint, kind of what I'm hearing at this point is that there'll be kind of two pieces. One is going to be the legislative session, whatever comes out of that, and then the decennial study. So there's kind of two opportunities to try and get the message through on funding. The key thing to me that I'm 100% convinced at this point is that we need a lot of public comment on these items. And I know there's a lot of times that people are kind of hesitant to comment on some of these things because they may not be sure how to comment, but at least with the effort I'm doing, I'm trying to put that together to help guide people that attended our meeting to begin to comment, which we're doing at the upcoming Board of Education meeting. But At least that's the start. But I think however we do that, we need to involve our teachers, parents, students to know how to message the legislators on these different topics. So with that, I think this is very good. I totally support it. But there's a lot of work we all have to do if we want to get something like this activated. So I encourage everybody, if you have any questions, let me know. I've been through a ton of legislative sessions like this. So I have a pretty good sense of kind of how to navigate through that. I've got some good help at the legislative level, so I would just encourage us to not just pass this, but get behind it and push it. So we can at least get something done. They have to hear from a lot of different people, not just the organizations. So I think that's the effort we need to move forward with.
Thank you. Any further trustee discussion?
Chair Neal, I'll just note that we didn't intend for this to be read into the minutes. It'll be, the wording of it will be incorporated into the minutes. It doesn't have to be read aloud, if no one wants to. It's a long resolution.
Thank you. Good clarification.
So you need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Black, seconded by trustee Wilson. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Up next, board discussion item, policy first reading, item 5.1.1, discuss recommended revisions to policy 8205, food service meal charge policy. Mr. Waterman.
Chair Neal, thank you. Brittany Selvig is our support services supervisor. I've asked her to join us to answer any technical hard questions that you might have for us. This is a significant change to our policy, but not intended at all to be a significant change to what is actually happening. The policy, as it currently stands, calls for alternative meals to be provided for students who don't have enough money in their account. That has not been happening for years. Brittany and I were trying to figure out when that was. It's been a long time since that's actually been happening. Not only is it considered to be lunch shaming now, it's also impractical, frankly, from an operational perspective, trying to develop 2 meals and prepare those and bring those to the schools for kids in certain situations just isn't practical. So we are proposing to realign our policy with what's actually happening out there at each one of our schools. If a student is short, they will be provided a qualified reimbursable meal, whatever's being served at the school that day. Their account will be charged for that as it currently is, and we will collect on overdrafts to the best of our ability. I will add to you that one of our concerns with this is overdrafts. It's a significant cost for our district. It's a significant cost for all schools really across the country anymore. It's really an emerging issue in this arena. We're approaching $17,000, I think, today in meal overdrafts. We've been incredibly fortunate in this district that we've had donations to cover that. There's been campaigns led by Bozeman Schools Foundation to raise that money. So to this point, they've been effective at covering those overdrafts. That said, that is one of the risks, obviously, of continuing to provide meals for students who don't have the money in their accounts. We go to great efforts to make sure that the free and reduced paperwork is available, get as many kids on that program as possible. But overall, we're trying to just align our policy to what's actually happening in the schools. Do you have anything to add, or?
I think you got it all. But if anyone has questions, right?
Sandy.
Well, I support this wholeheartedly. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. But I support, because I knew that's what was happening out there. Might as well have our policy reflect that, you know. And so thank you for bringing this forward to us to consider.
Like Mike said, our district is unique in that we have been lucky enough over the last several years that we've done this, that we get donations to cover it. That is not the case in all AAs. They're mailing certified letters, they're turning families over to collections. So just want to put that out there again. We run those huge campaigns and they are successful, and that's why we're able to keep doing this without putting further burden on families.
Is the signing up, are there barriers that exist that we can't do anything about, that it just, for signing up for free and reduced hot
There
lunch?
are, one of the main barriers right now that we're seeing is the increase in the ELML population. It's unique for a lot of them to even have to do paperwork, is my understanding. So to like have to fill out a form with your income to get your child free meals, we really struggle with that. We've been working with HRDC a lot. We've been going to events to get families signed up in that kind of category. That is a huge population that does have negatives though. The second barrier isn't so much like the paperwork aspect, it's the actual income guidelines. Those are federally set. They do not take into account cost of living. So like I shared some emails with Mike last week that I get often of families that are like, I don't understand why we were denied, because we just plug it in and it spits out the results. You know, this is how much we make gross, because it's gross income also. So it does not take into account any bills or any rent or a mortgage or anything. And so for Bozeman, I believe, I should have brought the paperwork with me, sorry, for a family of 4 to qualify, it's like $45,000. So we have that big, I always talk about it, the gray area, families that don't qualify but can't afford to feed their kids school meals. So that's like probably our biggest barrier right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, how long has it been since we were doing the cheese sandwich thing?
We're thinking at least 6 years. This might be our 7th.
Really?
Even when I've been here, this is my 10th school year. It was fizzling out then, even. Like Mike said, it was hard to even execute back when that was the policy, because it just like logistically was not something that, but that is how districts functioned. Things have changed rapidly with like meal shaming and stuff. So you look back even like 6 years and you're like, I can't believe that was ever a policy. And it was. I think most districts had that as policy. It's kind of like, you know, black mark, but that's how it was back in the day. So we're happy to change it finally.
Gary?
Yeah, thank you. I have a question on meal charge policy. Students, it's the last 2 sentences where it says the student's account will be charged for this meal, but in no case will the student be refused a reimbursable meal because of an overdraft status. Students whose account is in an overdraft status may pay cash for non-reimbursable food items, such as a la carte and seconds, but may not charge those items until the overdraft has been cured. The district may attempt to collect on overdrawn accounts. So does that, what do we do to address the overdraft or the underpaid portions in a way that results in the parents paying for that food?
We do a bunch of different things. I personally used to call people pre-COVID when our list of negatives was
like 20 people, district-wide. That is not feasible anymore. I think it's like 15 pages, 20, I can't remember. I looked at it today. We do robocalls, we do emails, we have automatic emails that go out. We work with parent liaisons often. Last week was just K-5 conferences. I printed off negative letters for any student that had a negative balance with scannable QR codes. You can apply here, or you can put money on via this code to our My School Bucks account for the teachers to send home or hand out at conferences. So yeah, we kind of try and hit it everywhere we can to collect. Is that what you're asking? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we just don't have the manpower to like personally call everyone anymore. That would be the best probably, but I guess we're trying every way we can.
Yeah, and I'll just add, when we do clear overdrafts using donations, we clear by individual. So if Johnny Smith has an overdraft for $14.80, we'll go in and clear that amount specifically for that family. So we do track overdrafts. We do allow them to buy food, pay cash for anything that they want if they've got cash in their pocket. Just the federal reimbursement, the reimbursable items and the meal items that we're serving that day is what we'll continue to provide regardless of overdraft status. The word of May, the district may attempt to collect on overdrawn accounts, provides our ability to that. We do intend to collect on overdraft accounts using the mechanisms Brittany mentioned, but it just gives us the ability to pursue those folks at any point in time.
And it's a tricky situation, Trustee Lucine, that we are assuming positive intent by all parents, that they're doing the best they can to pay these bills. And then we've had a very generous community that has allowed us not to move to a collections process. I think if you look at that from a negative viewpoint, like you're setting precedent that you don't have to pay your lunch account and it'll get covered for you. And we're just choosing to assume that everyone's trying to do the best they can.
I'll add one thing to kind of spin off of Casey is we actually had a gentleman call last year. This is just a side story, sorry. And he made a donation to us because he found out we did not send collection letters home. He grew up in Butte, and he said they were often sent home. And he said, how did he word it? Basically, you don't know what happens when maybe it is a parent who doesn't have the best interests of their children in mind. And he's like, you don't know what happens at home when a letter like that goes home. So that's what we're trying to avoid, basically, is just making it a non-issue, assuming everyone means the best. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, Brittany.
We are continuing to accept donations. So we'll be asking the Bozeman Schools Foundation to help us with that in the future. But just to get on the record with this, it's an important function that our community has been very generous to help us move forward with and assume the best interest that we can and help folks and get kids with food in their stomach ready to learn when they go to school.
Gary.
One more question. So moving forward, how will you track this? So if we continue to have an increase in people not paying, is there a line that we don't want to cross or can't cross, or how would we address that if it continues to grow the way it has?
That's a good question that I don't have the answer to. Ideally, the goal would be the state would pass universal free meals. Many states have, using things like marijuana money, taxes, sorry, not money. But many states have passed that. Now I do not see that happening for the next 4 years. So we will rely on the community. I don't think we have a threshold
Yeah, we don't have a threshold, Trustee Lucine. There's not a point in time where we're going to draw a hard line. We do have an expectation that the food service budget is self-supporting, so we don't have to subsidize it through the general fund, to the point that we're able to, accommodate the overdrafts, whether it be through donations or through extra revenue, subsidizing it, then we'll be okay. If it becomes a problem where we can't support all of our costs with the revenue we've got, we're going to have some different conversations about the entire budget, not just this piece alone.
Will you touch on your revenue generating ideas that are coming forward? The wraps?
Well, that's for emergency snack feeding, but yes. So hunger in general has truly spiked in Bozeman since COVID. So that's this is all a big snowball thing that the district is trying to work on. In fact, last year, has it been last year or was it 2 years? Gallatin Valley Food Bank reached out to us. They often donate snacks to our schools to have in the office or the counselor's office for kids that are maybe having behavior issues because of hunger or just hunger in general. They come down and they get a snack. HRDC reached out to us and let us know they're so inundated, they can't provide that for much longer. So we have been brainstorming, and Jen Lammers with the foundation noticed that we had our 2 food service trucks. They're big box trucks that drive around and deliver food. She had a really good idea to wrap them and then have businesses sponsor for like a 3-year contract. I can't remember the math. It was like $10,000 or something, $8,000. And they get their logo on there, that they're a sponsor to, help child nutrition at Bozeman School District. And then we could self-fund emergency snacks in buildings, or emergency food for kids that need it. And it would be more streamlined across the district too. Right now it's very, sorry, I'm really tired today. It was a long day. What's the word? It's not equitable. Across all buildings as far as what's available for emergency snacks. Some have so much and high quality stuff and others like scrape by. So the goal would also be to just have it be equitable across all buildings.
I'll add too that's one of the things, and I'm gonna toot Brittany's horn just a little bit about the other things that she's been doing. We've had our central kitchen is a tremendous facility. It's really unrivaled K-12 across the state. MSU has been down here using our central kitchen, the cook chill equipment to make food for Miller and Rendezvous. That contract I think ended this year, but for the last couple of years they've been down there. We've been providing food to Montfortin, to Anderson, outside sales just as much as we can. Everything we can do to make better use of our equipment, a better use of our resources, and take some of the pressure off of these other things, off of our core purposes, and take some of the pressure off, the collection efforts and things where it's just harder to make ends meet. So does that answer your question, Superintendent Bertram?
Sandy.
Well, I can't even wrap my head around children being hungry. So I thank you, and you, Mike, and everyone else who is contributing to this effort going forward in this policy that captures what I think we should be doing. So thank you.
I'm sorry, the sponsored food truck is conceptual, or that's happening right now?
Conceptual. I meet with Jen in the next couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany.
5.2, are there any committee reports?
I believe we have one Equity Advisory Committee met last week. Mars?
Yes, the Equity Advisory Committee met on November 7th, and we discussed a variety of issues, including the disproportionality issue related to special education, Title IX. We talked about our burgeoning homeless population, and the Bozeman Schools Foundation has hired a new staff member to assist Anna Edwards. She works, as you know, to support families in transition. We spoke about targeted early literacy intervention, our ML-EL team and the great work they're doing, and the, with regards to mental health, the LRSP goal placeholder for student well-being.
Thanks, Mars. 5.3, enrollment update and future projections. Mrs. Clark. I believe, yes? Oh.
Good evening, trustees. We're just making sure it's going to work. Yeah, finance, not tech. While he's working on it, I just wanted to remind you guys that every year we do 2 enrollment counts throughout the school year. The first enrollment count is the first Monday in October. This year it was on October 7th. We use the first enrollment count every October to project what we anticipate future years will look like. And so we're going to go through a little bit of what we came across with enrollment, in addition to what trends and projections we kind of foresee moving forward. So right here is just a basic enrollment summary. A lot of these are going to be slides that you guys have seen throughout the years, just used mostly for the fact that you recognize them, you understand them, and hopefully they're straightforward and clear on what we're looking at. This shows the 10-year history of overall K-5, grades 6, 8, and 9, 12 in the different grade bands. This year, the biggest increase was going to be, or was at the high school, which is the green line. We had an increase of 39 students from last October. Elementary is a little different this year. This year we had more students in pre-K due to the Bozeman reads that we were able to count for A and B. So you're going to hear me differentiate between pre-K and 5 and just kindergarten and 5. So kindergarten and 5 actually decreased across the board by 27 students. However, when we added in the Bozeman reads aspect of that and that 72 students, we had an overall increase of 7 students. And then once again, decrease at the middle school this year. We had a total of 24 students decrease, 4 at CJ, 1 at Sacagawea, and then 19 from the box closure. And I'm not sure, I didn't have the information as to whether those particular 19 students got absorbed into other classes or if they went elsewhere with their education. This purple line is just the total of all of the enrollment across the board. You can see last year we were at 7,386. This year we jumped up to 7,408. Once again, that's due to the Bozeman Reed 72 students and the high school overall increase. So overall, we saw an increase of 22 students pre-K through 12. This is just a little bit of information for what our elementary schools are looking like. You can see Emily Dickinson is our largest school this year. This surpassed Highlight. Highlight had a classroom removed, Running Start, that went over to Morning Star. That decreased it enough to bump Emily up to being the largest with 529 students. And then once again, Irving, you'll see here, is the smallest with 173. This is just another graph that shows the elementary schools. The thing about this graph that I think is really important is what we have seen over the last 4 years. So COVID is done. The wonky enrollment that came with COVID is rebounding, it's recovering, but our demographic in our city is different. And so I think this accurately represents where we're at today. When you look at the individual schools, there's some things I want to point out about them. So Morning Star, Morning Star saw an increase of 36 students. However, they had an increase of 4 pre-K Bozeman Reads classrooms. So that's 72 kids added to their roster. Without Bozeman Reads, they would have actually had a decrease in their kindergarten through 5th grade of 36 students. The next one is Whittier. This one was interesting because although they lost a classroom of Running Start that moved over to Morning Star, they actually only decreased by 1 student. So we saw a little bit of growth in the demographics that are at Whittier. Longfellow and Hawthorne are important to note because last year they're both centrally located schools, and last year they both saw decreases. This year they both ended up rebounding. So Longfellow rebounded by 17 students and Hawthorne rebounded by 15. And then the final one I just want to point out that's always on people's radar is Irving. It continues to decrease. You can see the trend for the last 4 years. This is the lowest enrollment in over 10 years with 173 students. So Irving is down 11 students from last year. This is the same graph, just bigger because we only have 2 middle schools, but this is just showing the comparison between Chief Joseph and Sacagawea. Sacagawea is the larger of the 2 schools, so it's going to have a higher enrollment. Overall, like I said, there was a decrease of 24 students, grades 6 through 8. However, both CJ and Sac stayed really consistent with where they were last year. Sacagawea currently has 812 students, and CJMS has 754. So Sac has higher enrollment from CJ by 58 students. The high school enrollment by building. I know this is an important topic of conversation, how the 2 buildings compare. For reporting purposes, although Bridger Charter Academy is its own high school this year, we lump it in with Bozeman High because a lot of those students share classes between the 2 schools. So a lot of them are part-time status in one and part-time status in the other, making them a full-time student. So for comparison purposes, it's easiest to keep them together. What we saw last year is in green, and that was when we had a large discrepancy between the 2 schools. That was a 217 student discrepancy. Obviously, we've made changes to the enrollment process. We're enrolling more kids mid-year at Bozeman High School, and we've actually now gotten the difference down. You can see the purple lines are a lot closer than the green lines. The difference is now 92 students. So if we were to even out the schools, we would only have to fluctuate 46 students from Gallatin High School over to Bozeman High. And here's just a little bit better representation. What I think is really interesting is if you look at that 9th grade, that is about as close to enrollment equalization as you can possibly get. 346 students at BHS, 347 at GHS. Obviously a fluctuation in 10th grade and 12th grade. 12th grade, if that were to drop off and a new 9th grade came in with the same equalized numbers, our high schools would be the same enrollment. So something to keep in mind. This is an important slide because it shows the total students by grade level, and this is our K-8 grades, but these are the kids that are going to be moving into our high school. So our K-1 enrollment, you can see are 463 and 457. This was based on Bozeman Health's live birth rates back in 2018, 2019, so before the pandemic. Numbers had dropped at that time. So we see the Bozeman Health numbers drop, and we're seeing the correlation with the kindergartner and 1st grade class now. The kinder classes were expected to have another small class next year, and then it's slowly going to start rising again. There's a couple waves that don't make the graphs and numbers look consistent with year-to-year birth rates, but I'll show you that in just a minute. We have to go back clear to 2019. That was the largest kindergarten class in the last 10 years. And since that class was a kindergarten class in 2019, the class shrunk from 547 in 2019, and now as 5th graders, they're down to 529. And then this is a really important one. 8th grade is the largest class that we have, K-8. So we have 551 of our own students that are gonna roll into the high schools. Obviously, the feeder schools are going to play into that 9th grade enrollment, but when we look forward to future high school projections, 9th grade next year is gonna be as high as it is for the foreseeable future. So this is just a look at the Bozeman Health live birth data. So currently, our kindergarten class that's relatively, or is small, not as small as last year, but it's still small, is looking at the 2019-2020 birth data. So you can see that those were lower years at Bozeman Health. Next year, we'll be looking at 2020, 2021. You can see it spikes in 2021, but a lot of those kids are still coming from 2020. So we kind of have to cross-share those years. These are based on calendar years. Our school years, obviously not. So that's why we have to share the years. Yeah, Gary?
Yeah, thanks. On the live birth, Of the 1,300, do you have a number of how many of those are in Bozeman?
This
Live
is-
in Bozeman?
No, I do not. This is just the Bozeman Health data that they share. They don't break it down into actual address of where children live. What we've found is, historically speaking, this is enough data to get us really good projections for our kindergarten enrollment counts.
Thanks.
Something like that. And another thing to note, 1,300 is the capacity of births that Bozeman Health has available to deliver each year. 1,300 for 2024 is their projection. That's obviously going to change once we get to the end of the year. We'll know exactly the amount that they had. I think last year they projected 1,300 also, but we came in 10 shy, so. Yeah, Tanya.
Does the Billings Clinic provide OBGYN care and live births as well? And will we start including those numbers?
Those are included in this. This is actual deliveries at Bozeman Health. All Billings Clinic children are delivered at Bozeman Health, so those are all in this. Okay, so this is looking at the future. So you can see the line down the middle. That's where we're sitting at with 2024. Blue is going to be elementary. We're seeing a slight decline with these smaller class sizes coming in. The further out we go, the harder it gets to project, obviously. So as we look to the future, if Bozeman Health continues to have record-breaking 1,300 children years, then we project that those numbers are going to increase. Middle school is just a little bit delayed from what we're seeing in elementary, so obviously those lower class sizes, K-5, are gonna filter into grades 6, 8, but that's gonna take a couple years for them to get there. We're looking for a slight increase for the next few years, and then in about 2029, the 6, 8 will decrease. And obviously, all of these smaller class sizes are gonna hit the high school. It's just a little ways down the road. We think there's gonna be about one more year of increases, not significant, about 12 students overall. And then these smaller class sizes are gonna get to the high school, and we project that to be pretty stagnant going forward. And then once again, this is the purple line just showing what we're looking at for the future. For the next 7 years, it's gonna hover anywhere for total student population between 7,300 and 7,485. That means that we're sitting currently right in the middle of where we think we're going to be over the next 7 years.
The pre-K-5 projections, does it include an increase in 4-year-old classroom space?
I believe so. Let me triple check.
Okay. Trustees, for background, to launch the Bozeman Reads classroom-based programs, we had 2. We grew it to 4. We had to use one-time funds because A and B is in arrears, and we know about 150 students of our kindergarten class come in without requisite literacy skills, so we're talking about an expansion of that program. At Morningstar, you saw, although Morningstar went up, their actual K-5 enrollment declined, so they're anticipating having space for 1 to 2 more classrooms, and we're trying to build that into these projections, and it's in there. Yes.
It's in there. Instead of 72 pre-K kids for next year, we anticipated 108. And then this one, I think, is always interesting. It's our enrollment versus functional capacity within the buildings. You can see the solid lines are where we're actually at with enrollment, and then the dotted lines are the enrollment capacity. Looking from 2024 clear till 2034, we're not gonna see a need based on the current enrollment projections to build any more facilities.
Gary?
So I don't know if I'm reading this right, but when I see elementary and middle school going up and high school going down, how does that work?
The elementary's going up based on about year 2029. Once that starts going up, all of those lower enrollment classes that were in K-5 and K-8 are making their way to the high school. So it's a trend, it's kind of like a wave. You're gonna see lower enrollment in elementary while we're having higher in high school. And then once higher enrollment hits elementary, all those small class sizes are going to be hitting the high school.
Thanks.
This is just information that I thought was important and interesting. Honestly, this is the open enrollment results. So obviously, we know that this is the first school year where open enrollment became a factor, and it was a real big unknown when we did enrollment projections last year. I just wanted to give a general idea as to where we ended up. If you look at the far right, you're looking at 24-25, so that's our current count. So we have 70 out-of-district students currently enrolled in Bozeman school districts, and we have 149 students that are Bozeman school district residents enrolled in out-of-district locations, for a difference of 79. So since this is the first year of open enrollment, the numbers are a little bigger, but really not huge compared to what the unknowns. We didn't know what it was going to look like. When we look back, the numbers are smaller. A lot of those that were enrolled in BSD 7 that were out-of-district students, those were obviously employees' children's coming into the school. There are some other districts within the area, if you want to go to the next slide, that have always offered open enrollment options. Anderson is an important one to note there, that they've always had the ability for out-of-district kids to come into Anderson as long as they have room. So you're going to see the highest numbers for 2024-25 at Anderson. But this is the placement for the last 3 years for where our kids have gone. And then finally, just some key items I want you to take away. Overall, pre-K to 12th grade, we saw an increase of 22 students overall. Our largest increase was in grades 9 through 12 with 39 students. Both K-5 and 6-8 actually had a reduction in students. It was a little bit saved by the new Bozeman Reads program that came in. Another item to think about is Bridger Charter Academy. So Bridger Charter Academy is its own entity. Based on state law, we have to be able to account for 40 A and B to get the basic entitlement funding to run that school. When we're looking at enrollment currently, we have 101 students. That's an increase from 82 last year. 101 students does not equate to 101 A and B. A and B is all based on full-time, three-quarter time, half-time, and part-time. So when we look at the enrollment, a lot of those kids are enrolled in 1, 2, 3 Bridger Charter Academy classes, and then the rest are Bozeman High. So while overall they count for a 1 student, when we look at Bridger Charter by itself, it's right around 46 A and B. So it's going to come into play when we look at March enrollment counts. We're going to want to see that number stay above 40. BHS and GHS, as Casey's going to discuss here in a few minutes, has leveled out with enrollment. It's a huge jump to go from 217 last year to 92 this year. We hope that with future enrollment for the 8th grade becoming 9th graders, that we see that even out even more. And with that being said, 8th grade is the largest class that's coming through the district for the foreseeable future. So something to think about. And then once again, Bozeman Reads, we're looking to increase for the upcoming year by an additional 2 classrooms. Does anybody have any questions?
Sandy.
Oh, I'm still on. Thank you very much. This was really great information. And it actually is important to have and to think about as we look at boundaries, right? Going forward. I guess I don't have a question, I just have to say that out loud. Boundaries for both elementary and high school.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. That's all I got.
My question from just trying to take that 50,000-foot approach, I know the numbers coming out of COVID for the first 1 and 2 and 3 years were, the enrollment numbers were kind of different than they had ever been before and creating uncertainty. This feels like it's a little bit more, I don't know if normal is the right word, or healthy, I guess, or what are the thoughts there?
I think it's what we anticipated. We're still seeing a decrease in those K-8 students. So I think it still goes to show that it's really expensive to live here and families are having a hard time affording it. Our high school enrollment did increase, but not nearly by the amount that it increased last year. Last year it was over 100, and this year it's at 39 students. So enrollment is not increasing. Bozeman Reads is a great program and a great opportunity to be able to pull some additional students in, but for the foreseeable future, we're not going to see an upward trend.
With the live birth rate projections, are those pointing to positive trends?
Yep, if you wouldn't mind going back to that slide. So this year is 2019, 2020 that we're looking at combined. Next year, we'll see a slight increase in the kindergarten class, simply because we're gonna have that big year of 2021 along with the small year of 2020. Once we get through the hump of 2022, or the dip, I guess you should say, as long as those numbers with Bozeman Help continue to increase, that's when we should see increases. But those kids are still 5 years out.
Any further questions? Thanks, Lacey.
5.4, high school boundary discussion.
We'll pull that up and I'll get started. Go ahead. Oh yeah, number 3. That's it. Okay, as a reminder, over the summer, during, I think it was board retreat, we had a conversation around boundaries, and we had 3 topics. One was K-8 boundaries. There was a decision made to not pursue any boundary changes, school closures, everything that goes with that related to K-8. There was a conversation about annexation, consolidation, and then there was this high school boundaries. Made a recommendation, was supported by trustees to, at the time, as Lacey just mentioned, we were coming off a large growth at the high school and significant difference for Bozeman between Bozeman High School and Gallatin High School. So there was a recommendation made that during this school year, we would convene, we would study it, we convene a small consensus group, we'd make recommendations on boundary changes. Things have evolved since then, so we're bringing revised recommendation this evening. I'll walk through the pieces of that before we get to the final recommendation. If you look on the left-hand side, what Lacey just mentioned is when you take Bozeman High and BCA and you put them together, we have a much smaller percent difference between the buildings, 92 students, so 46, if we wanted to actually balance the numbers, 46 students at Gallatin High would go to Bozeman High, and we'd have equitable enrollment at both schools. So percent difference is 6.6. I don't have current enrollment for all AA's, but OPI GEMS produces, it's always a year in arrears. So we have 23-24. And what I did is took any district that had multiple high schools and took the percent difference between the most discrepant high schools in that district. So Billings West being the largest in Billings Skyview being smaller. Those percent differences vary widely, 32 down to 9.8 in the Flathead. So the BHS plus BCA compared to Gallatin High School is much smaller, less than half of the AA percent difference. I think that speaks for itself. Historical boundary change. We walked through the history of when boundary changes have been made in the school district. Typically, there's a grandfathering that happens for current students and often for current siblings. For example, a boundary change that I was aware of as principal at Hawthorne is the Manly Meadows area moved from Hawthorne to Whittier. All current students and their siblings were grandfathered. That change, I don't know how many years ago, has resulted in 0 students from Manly Meadows going to Whittier. What happens then is that only if, in our historical process, it typically, the change impacts new people that move into our community. If we, our current status quo with Gallatin High School being closed is it's impacting new people who are moving into our community. So there's a bit of, you would get the same result either way. Go back. Keep going. I think that's it. In talking about this, I've heard from some trustees to dig into the bubble. So we know that when our community came together to build high school number 2 and the conversation about boundaries, it was designed so that there was about a 15% of students at either middle school that went to the opposite high school. A reminder that during that time, enrollment was up and to the right, K-12, and we were anticipating middle school number 9, middle school, or elementary number 9, middle school number 3, high school number 3. And so what was it going to look like if we had 3 high schools in the community? So that bubble occurred. When we took a look at the actual bubble right now, it's actually just how you designed it, about 15%. So 40 CJ students are currently scheduled, 8th graders are currently scheduled to go to BHS next year. 44 8th graders at SMS are currently scheduled to GHS. So those numbers are a bit of a wash. It is important to note that we took out non-resident enrollments. We took out McKinney-Vento homeless families. We took out middle school transfer requests. Those all skew the numbers in certain ways. But they weren't part of the design. And then the biggest one, and we'll talk about on the next slide, is the MLEL kind of bubble. So if you go to the next one, we had, if you go back a couple years, we had a newcomer site at Highlight, then they moved to SMS, then they moved to Gallatin High School. We've never forced that, but we've communicated with families that there's more resources in those buildings to support those families. We're starting to see that, as you know, that population's booming. We're now over, I think it's growing by the day, actually, but we're like 550, 560. It's over 7% of our population are now MLEL. Just a couple years ago, it was 2%. So we're seeing currently growing numbers at our non-newcomer schools. So at CJMS, 32 students, Bozeman High, 29 students. That's going to be important when we move to the recommendations. Okay, so I have 4 recommendations for you. And again, this is a discussion item. I want to hear feedback on specific to do you support or not support all of them or specific pieces of that. We tried to put them all together in one package to account for all the variables that we're aware of. So my updated recommendation is to continue to monitor 9 through 12 enrollment with no boundary change process initiated for 25-26 school year at the high school level. A lot of conversation about the middle school bubble. Some of those students pursue the transfer process. As you know, a team designed that actual transfer protocol and what we say yes to and what we say no to, and that process is working as intended. There's conversation around, is it a hardship because the number is only 15%? If you're in that 15% and 85% of your peers go in a different direction. So one of, part of this proposal is looking at that bubble and making some changes to allow them a one-time opportunity during their 8th grade year to choose the high school of their choice and need to be made by the end of the first semester for scheduling purposes. The choice made there is the choice you make, and then you would use our transfer policy and process if you wanted to move outside of that. Number 3 is working towards increasing MLEL supports at CJMS and BHS, consistent with what we've done with K-5. As you know, in K-5, we went from supports at Highlight to supports at Highlight and Meadowlark, now supports at Highlight, Meadowlark, Emily, Irving. So as the populations grow in those communities, we're providing direct services to students. We've grown that team from about 2 people district-wide to a team of 10. We anticipate if it continues to grow, we're gonna have to find ways to continue to support those students. So that would sort of move, one thing that is skewing the growth at Gallatin High School is that SMS, all the newcomer side at SMS, the vast majority of those kids move to Gallatin High School regardless of what high school they're programmed for. And so this would kind of do away with a newcomer model and say if you're an MLEL student, you're served in your neighborhood school. That should help with those numbers equity over time. And then number 4 is right now GHS to new families is closed. That we would, and that doesn't, it's weird. It doesn't feel good to tell a family that moves in across the street from Gallatin High, no, you have to go to Bozeman High. Our recommendation would be because the numbers are closer than they have been prior, that we would open enrollment for new families that move in during 25-20 or preparing for the 25-26 school year and continue to monitor capacity. None of this is a perfect science. I feel like we have a little bit of buffer when you look at the AA comparisons. We are very different from a lot of the AA communities in terms of discrepancy in numbers, and I think we can open it up and monitor it. Might come back next year with another revised recommendation, but this is where we sit today, which is vastly different from what we communicated and recommended in July.
Gary?
Yeah, thanks, Casey. I'm curious, both high schools were built to accommodate 1,500 students. So realistically, how much can we go above 1,500 and still function well?
Not much, no. I think you're finding it, and Eric is here, you're finding at Gallatin High School like a space crunch. They're launching, you heard at the board luncheon prime time, and they have teachers sharing classrooms, and so they're functionally out of space. There's a little bit of buffer. We can accommodate 1,500 students. If you go over that, it's going to be real tight.
Tanya?
I like the recommendation number 3. I've had some concerns with our new model policy that we were going back to feeling like almost a segregated community, and that's been a concern of mine. So I love the recommendation there to move away from that. My concern, however, is how we afford the resources that it would take to put that into every school. Do you have some thoughts around that?
Yeah, I don't have an answer other than we are anticipating. So when you look at the proposals, like the STARS proposal from Representative Jones and Beatty, it has $50 million of new money. So we're anticipating hopefully some flexibility. We also feel really good about the fact that we cut $4.1 million and increased MLEL supports, and seemingly did not dismantle or get rid of any programs. It was all done through attrition and done through master schedule changes. I think we're done with pulling master schedule rabbits out of hats, so it's gonna be real difficult to add without cutting.
I think these are 4 very great recommendations.
I would comment on number 2, kind of doing a worst outcome, best outcome in my head on that one, and then also reflecting on my experience sitting on the transition committee and then the subcommittee that formed the transfer policy 7 or 8 years ago. I could see, and I'm not opposed to number two. I think there's a lot of good. I can also see from a worst outcome standpoint that resulting in a situation where there's a lot of recruiting happening for certain. A big part of the conversation when we created that transfer policy was we didn't want all the football players going over here and all the, you know, that kind of the sports thing. And I think that would probably immediately become a recruiting kids to this building for this sport scenario. That's my guess anyway. But I also do think we need to maybe find a way to get away from the 15% that are going to Gallatin that otherwise would go to Bozeman and vice versa. Because I didn't have it clear in my head that the why behind that was that we formed that concept when we were growing as a community and we were looking towards middle school number 3. And I had kind of forgotten that part of it, and I've been trying to process in my head why we have it that way right now, and that is the reason you reminded me of that tonight. So I do think that that the feeder school from a middle school to a high school concept probably is where we maybe should consider going as a district. But I guess that's my thoughts on number 2. Is I do think that's going to maybe go ahead.
Yeah, I think, and Principal Schnee's in the room, I think there is concern about number 2. Like it depends on how you look at it. So if you're in the 15%, you could say it's inequitable that only 15% of us have to go to the opposite high school. And then if you're in the 85%, you're going to say, well, only 50, it's inequitable because 15% of kids get to choose where they want to go, and the 85% doesn't get to choose. So it's an opinion piece. However, 15% is a pretty small percentage, in my opinion, and 85% of your friends potentially going to a different high school. We've heard that it's problematic. However, the transfer policy has been addressing that appropriately. I can tell you with the transfer policy that we are saying yes if there's a therapeutic or medical documentation in there. And so we're having a lot of letters around with folks with various credentials saying this student is going to experience anxiety because their friends are going the other direction, and we've been handling those all the same way, approving them because they have medical documentation. So I don't know that, there's not a perfect answer for number 2. And I don't know the outcome of that. I don't know how many kids would, they've been taught, they're 8th graders, they've been talking about for years that they're in the 15% and they're going to a particular high school. I don't know if they'd change that if we change this, but it allows some choice there.
Yep. Thank you.
I guess we're also trying to avoid the 15% showing up upset about a decision. So if you have 100% choice, there's no reason to complain about this change.
Trustee Wilson, is it in my imagination or wasn't part of that 15%? Didn't we also think that was making it easier for the rural students that would be coming into the high schools, that they were not going in completely with a group that had gone K-8 together? Did I make that up in my head, or?
I'm not sure what you're saying. I just need you to say it one more.
I think that part of the conversation over having 15% of the students from a middle school going to a different high school than the others, we had also talked about that would make it easier for the rural students that were coming in from our rural elementary districts, Anderson, Manforton, et cetera.
Oh, with the numbers, as far as not having.
That it wasn't, they were the only newbies in a friend group, that there were other kids that were also having to make new friends. I don't know. I'm thinking, judging from the reaction, that I made that up in my own head.
No, that doesn't mean that. I just might not remember it. I don't remember that, but yeah.
Lauren.
First of all, thank you, Casey. I do not remember all the details of that, Tanya, but I do remember us saying they wouldn't be the only small group. No, you're good. I appreciate the thought behind all 4 pieces here, and my initial thought was the same as Trustee Reinhardt's on number 3. And how can we focus on that neighborhood school piece, especially for people who are moving in and trying to make a new community or become part of this community. And number 2, I'm mixed. I remembered the 15% and how we were kind of assured, well, we're going to grow and this will look different when we have a 3rd middle school. But similar sentiment to Trustee Neal, and wondering, I guess you answered it in the way of some of those kids, if it is going to be a hardship, they already are going to go through that transfer process. I don't know if there's a way to remind them that they can go through the transfer process, and that kind of hits that, appeasing a certain amount of people.
I think the other thing that I forgot to mention is we've had some internal conversation about sort of the demographics of families pursuing the transfer process, and the ability for families to go out and get a licensed counselor, therapist, doctor to write the letter for them. We know that not all families are pursuing those options or are aware of those options. So I think there are our transfer policy, anytime, similar to open enrollment, anytime you force a free and reduced lunch applications, anytime you force a paperwork process, there's portions of our demographics that don't engage in that process.
So I guess with that, thank you very much, Casey. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but then maybe that is something where it is, I hate putting more things on our schools, but the counselor in the school, or, you know, somebody who notices some of those kiddos who their parents might not have the accessibility to advocate for those rights. I guess I do just worry about some of the kids who would go just for the sports or whatever, you know, speech and debate or anything, if they would gravitate for some reason.
Could you come forward, Principal Schnee? I didn't even know you were back there. You definitely were behind the column. Please hit the green light button. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that we don't require a medical documentation on the transfer request, and we do approve kids' requests. We have approved kids' requests in the past year, particularly student requests without a medical documentation when they allude to peer concerns being part of their rationale. That's all.
Thank you. Sandy, you can stay there in case there's more later. Okay.
To your point, Tanya, I think the rural school piece in the discussion, I just was thinking about it, was focused around schools like Anderson, that 40% of their population is out of district. So those kids would not be going necessarily where the in-district kids are going. And so it was part of that discussion, you know. I mean, listening to the discussion on this, while I have a couple of concerns, I just think it's going to be so important for us to be nimble. I look at where we thought we were this summer, and here we are, and it's November. And hearing you talk about how we were supposed to be building we were talking about building a 3rd high school and a 3rd middle school, and that was a while ago, but some of these things are happening really fast, and I think we need to be nimble and creative. And Casey, I think you and your central office has put forth some really great ideas. I don't look forward to a boundary change unless it's absolutely necessary. It's really hard to do in a district, and so anyway, I support these four things, and thank you for bringing these forward.
Casey.
2 has generated a lot of conversation. Another approach to number 2 is to proactively reach out to those families to let them know they are in the bubble, to let them know that 85% of the students are going in the other direction, and then point them to the transfer process. That's another way to get at it, to try to ensure that they're aware of it. I think some families don't know that we have a transfer policy, don't know they're in a bubble, don't know that 85% of the kids are going in the opposite direction. So I'm open to, that's the one that's generated the most feedback. I'm not hearing anything at this point that on 1, 3, or 4 that we shouldn't be pursuing. So I need a little more, I need to hear on what trustees want to do on number 2.
Kevin?
All right, I'll be that guy. Well, actually, I mean, I'm good with all of them. The bubble piece of it, number 2, that seems like kind of like the best outcome. Hey, we're gonna do this because it makes the most sense. On the other side of it, I do see like, okay, well, I'm in the 85%. Why can't I be in the bubble? That argument from people. And then the other thing is, so we have the MLEL right below it, and the last sentence, the last 2 words in that is neighborhood school. And now up above, we're saying your neighborhood school doesn't quite matter as much of your experience from 6, 7, and 8. So, and I know plenty of 8th graders, and a lot of them seem like they still are trying to find a spot to go. As far as where they're at emotionally and all the thoughts that are happening with them, regardless of where they started from. So I feel like if in 3 we're saying neighborhood schools are important, then to me 2 neighborhood schools should be important as well. We do have the transfer policy. So as an example, if we just said, hey, everybody at SAC goes to Bozeman High and everybody at CJ goes to Gallatin, and we still have the transfer policy that we can still move people around if needed for those reasons. And then also, I think Greg made a good point, is when we were talking about this in the transition committee multiple years ago, we were talking about, as many of you know, having 2 more elementary schools by now, or not by now, excuse me, we're 24, maybe by next year. Middle school by next year, number 3, and high school number 3 by 2035. All that has, at this point in time, has changed substantially. So, so I guess that would just be my feedback. I don't like to, again, I think the bubble piece is like maybe the most ideal way to manage it. But I'm not sure if to me, those 2 don't support each other.
Is your recommendation on 2 to just move to feeder schools?
From the feedback.
And get rid of the bubble?
From the feedback that I've heard from multiple different people throughout, whether it's people in schools and that sort of thing, not from everybody, obviously, but is that could be a positive thing for those students that are getting lost. Or creating more challenges when they go to this, they're at CJ right now and they go to Bozeman High and they're trying to find their friends, and maybe they don't have something to jump into, whether it's an athletic or a club or any of those type of things, and now they're finding their way to maybe the student bodies that was already lost and not getting on the right direction. So I guess, yes, that would be, we still have the option to transfer still at that point in time to whichever school, I mean, not whichever, but you still have the option to go through that just like you do now. And we have 15% going both ways, so we're not really affecting the number.
Gary?
Well, this discussion has taken my mind to a different place, so hopefully I'm not totally out of bounds on this. But instead of looking at boundary changes, and a recent visit at Gallatin High, and I talked with Erica and Katie after that board luncheon, and realizing that with the population they have now, there's a challenge for space. So is it possible to consider adding classrooms onto, could be only Gallatin High? And it was originally, when we did design those schools, it was start at 1,500 each and have it designed to where we can add 300 students to each high school. So, and we may not need additional space for 300 students, but even with the population we have now, if there's a space challenge to provide like prime time or other courses that they need to have, is it realistic to consider adding classrooms to Gallatin High that would house 100 students? I don't know. I don't know the number. But is that an option to look at instead of considering boundary changes that might address some of these concerns we're talking about now?
Erica?
I just want to add a point, I think an important point of clarification. As Gary said, when the original designs for both high schools were made, both high schools were going to be at 1,500 with the space or land identified to add up to 300 extra capacity. During the construction phase and the way the bond was spent and construction prices at the time, the addition was added to the Bozeman High renovation. So I think it's important to note that the capacities of the two high schools are different. Bozeman High's capacity, I think, is like 1,750, and Gallatin High's capacity is 1,500. Unfortunately, where the growth in the community is in Gallatin High's attendance area, not Bozeman High. So in the long term, I think it's important to just note that the capacity space is really at Bozeman High, not at Gallatin, even though that's where the growth has been, other than this past year because of the things that were put into place. So I think that I'm guessing that it wouldn't be wise I would love to add 100 space for 100 more at Gallatin High School. That would be my best outcome. But I also don't know that that's the most realistic outcome when there is capacity at Bozeman High for the overall high school population.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Need more?
I don't know that I need more. I just don't know. I don't know what to do. This is a discussion item, so we don't have to make a decision today. I feel like I've heard 3 options for number 2. We can leave it the way it is with the bubble, use the transfer policy. We can get rid of the bubble, go to straight feeder schools, use the transfer policy, or we can go with, as it's written, with choice for 8th graders. We could run this through huddles and have a deeper conversation on number 2 with our middle school and high school admin, and then come back with further discussion around that. Mike, Lacey, any other? I'm not hearing any consternation about 1, 3, or 4.
I agree. I think that's what I've heard too. I think the issues around number 2, there's a question of whether there's a problem or not. And then if there is, we have options on ways to solve it. So maybe we continue those conversations.
And number 2, in
back
full
out.
transparency, was to move forward without creating more problems. So if I'm the 8th grader at SMS that has bought all my Raptor gear and goes to every Gallatin High event, because that's going to be, because I'm in the bubble, I didn't want to upset that group of parents and vice versa. So choice was a way to move through it and address the bubble, because the bubble keeps coming up, whether it's coming up from trustees or it's coming up in the transfer policy or it's coming up from community members. It's a thing that was designed for a reality that is not our reality. So it was designed because we were going to have 3 middle schools. We don't have 3 middle schools. The projections say we're not going to have 3 middle schools before I have really gray hair and retire. So I was trying to find some middle ground there to move that bubble forward. I'm not tied to the solution on number 2 in any way. I just know I have a really smart team of admin that we could have a deeper conversation on this, come back and maybe have a more consistent recommendation.
Sandy?
Just one more thought that, and this is probably in the weeds, but there's probably siblings too involved in this whole, siblings that are already in the high school and kids coming up, and so that would I mean, choice would be better for families like that, I think. But anyway.
There's a little bit of an element of urgency to this as we have to start drawing up schedules and those types of things. So we'll need to have those conversations soon.
Yeah, I mean, and in terms of coming back, it's December. We'd have to make a decision in December because it kicks into full gear right after the winter break.
Well, I would just add, now that we know we've gone through all the changes that happened with the pandemic, we know that we're not gonna go towards middle school number 3, high school number 3, elementary number 9. We have the bubble because we were planning for those things. So in my mind, it possibly makes sense to take a step away from having the bubble, which I think that would be the feeder school concept. That said, I also like the choice, the idea of giving kids options and choices, and the kids that have been wearing the Raptor gear, what you just said. So if we can somehow find a balance between somehow moving away from even having a bubble, but also providing these kids with choice through policy, that's my best outcome. I don't know if I just said anything that makes any sense there, but finding that balance somehow.
Yeah, we can work on it. I also think number 4 is we're going to have to live it. So as Erica mentioned, they're really close to full. So if we open enrollment at 25, 26 and enrollment booms at Gallatin High, we're going to have to close it at some point and revisit this whole thing again. But we're not done with high school boundaries, I'll tell you that.
And we have to recognize that, next year we'll have a larger class come, so maybe 25, 26 isn't the right year for that. Maybe we live with what we've got for one more year with one more large 8th grade class coming through, and then consider reopening it for 26, 27 when the smaller, we can visit those things too.
Okay, thank you, everybody. 5.5, Superintendent Formative Evaluation Discussion number 2. Superintendent Bertram.
Thank you, and I recognize it's 8:51 p.m., so I'll be very brief. When we met last, we had a formative conversation number 1 based upon the 2 goal areas, the 2 professional goals that I set in the actual document, the long document. I've provided an update and progress on those 2 learning goals. So reminder, goal 1 is about overseeing the development of a staff well-being goal and associated action plan. Provided to trustees earlier in the week, we've launched the Panorama surveys. We've moved away from HumanX. We've partnered with the BEA to find a better tool. We had agreement from the DOCC that the Panorama surveys, specifically belonging, school climate, well-being, and staff leadership relationships, were the right questions to ask. That happened they were rolled out in October, November. Thank you, Pat Strauss, for all your work on that. We got about 78% of our staff to respond, which is very positive. And then we're going to share the results at the DOCC tomorrow and begin talking about what's an LRSP measurable goal and what are associated action plan items. So that process is moving forward just as we drew it up. We will be coming to the board for final approval of the LRSP goal and action plan when that's done. There's a link in there. Don't worry about it now, but the combined results summary is very interesting. When you took the survey, you either clicked on you were a certified staff member, so our teaching staff, or a classified professional. There was a lot of the same answers came out on both sides, and so you'll see that. I think the goal is going to be something around we have a large percentage of our staff members, whether it's certified or classified, that are feeling overwhelmed. And that are feeling overburdened in their roles. We also, on the celebration side, have a high percentage of our staff members that are very connected to their work and feel like they're doing good things. And so it's a mixed bag of results, and it's something we can work through. Goal number 2 was all about the student well-being goal. Trustee D is part of that community group that's come together to read The Anxious Generation. We've had a 1 full-day meeting, 1 half-day meeting. We meet one more time in November. I think it's like a 3/4-day meeting to fully build out. We have selected a goal, and now we're going to be working through what are the action plans. That'll all come back to trustees. And again, we have student voices and the right student voices in that room, which has been really powerful to that process. So those are the progress towards the 2 goals. In the actual rubric document, I've gone in for all 10 standards and put in evidence for all of those, for my self-assessment scores based upon the rubric. And so, again, this is the formative conversation. Any feedback related to those professional learning goals, related to any of the 10 standards, or any other things you want me working on or keeping my eye on. And then just a reminder, the process moving forward is Lori Ross will send you each a blind copy of the rubric. You fill out the rubric, you put in your comments, it all gets compiled, and we come back in December and January and look at that, and then determine whether you want to keep me around or not.
Okay. That said, are there trustee comments? Gary?
Yeah, thanks, Casey. I really appreciate this panorama surveys, staff surveys. I think that's an important piece to this, and there's a lot of challenges, as you know, we face. But I just feel you're on the right track with this. And I'm still kind of in the speed and pace of change and doing this, which seems like it's a reasonable pace. We have to make changes. There's no question about that. But how fast that's done and to make sure pieces are put in place and stuff is important. And I think, from my perspective, it's going to take time to make these changes effectively. So I think everybody has to have some patience with and cooperation on how it goes. But I think you're taking us in a good direction. I appreciate that.
I'll give my comments. Sorry, I just saw a hand go up there. The professional learning goals, I read through the data of the surveys, and I've said this before, but I think the professional learning goals are just so relevant with the mental health component, and mental health being addressed is the importance of that is at an all-time high right now. And it's comprehensive with staff and students, and reading through the data of the surveys was really, really interesting. And so I'm just really thankful that we are, that those are your professional goals. And I'm only going to address one standard right now since we're in the formative phase, but when I was looking at your assessed scores, the one that stuck out to me was the ethics and professional norms. You gave yourself I think it was a 3.5. And I'm not sure why you would not give yourself a 4. You did appropriately give yourself a 4 on 1 or 2 others, which you had not really done that before. Which I was happy to see that, but so ethics and professional norms. You're an open book with all stakeholders. I very much appreciate your consistent, clear as kind communication approach with us, with everybody, all stakeholders. That's your approach with your communication. Your board breakfasts, you're an open book with trustees. Your Friday communications, your district and trustee communication is consistent and relevant, and
and your adherence to policy 3610. So I just feel like you're checking the boxes. And we're gonna go through all the standards at the summative portion of this, but why that one's not a 4 in my mind, I don't know. Be curious to know what your thoughts are there. I don't necessarily need them right now, but those are my thoughts.
I'd be happy to answer it.
Okay.
I think reading through the, looking at in both committees on my professional goals, we have kids that are struggling with mental health and they're not doing well. And we have staff members who are struggling and they're not doing well, and I own that and I personalize that. And so I feel like those percentages are too high, and as the leader of the district, we have more work to do to make sure that all of our students and our staff feel supported. And so there's, that this talks about, that particular goal talks about being kind of the moral compass of the district, and I feel like I'm pulled in so many directions that I do not get to have enough face-to-face interactions for people that are on our payroll that are struggling day to day, and I don't even know who they are. So I'm not going to give myself a 4 there.
Okay, thank you. Sandy?
Without repeating everything that's been said so far that I agree with, I think probably one of the things that I most appreciate is, and it encompasses several of these standards, is the idea that you are so knowledgeable about the LRSP and committed to making sure that the big deals that we do in our district are connected to that. That all the dots, we're not doing extraneous things. And what we are doing are important, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that your 2 goals are about the humans in this district, because that's what we are. We're in the business of human beings. And so I really, really appreciate that. And then the other piece that has become very apparent to me, having been on the board for almost 10 years now, is that I've watched central office and I've watched the admin, and now we're in this collaborative environment in all our schools, that people have come out of their silos, and it's under your leadership, I will just say. It's under your leadership. They've come out of their silos, and they're meeting and talking together and sharing kids and sharing duties and all of that. And that is so evident every time I come to a board meeting or I'm in a school or whatever, is that this is about us. It's about human beings, and it so makes sense that those are your goals this year, and I look forward to seeing where this goes. I know that you've talked about before that, you wish you could get into schools, and people wish they could see their superintendent in their schools and know them and so on. And I will just say that what you're doing is so important. And while I'm not saying that you shouldn't go into schools or whatever, but I think your priorities in your tenure, which is, what are we 2 years in now as the superintendent, and then an additional 3, I don't know how many years you've been doing, 2.5 or whatever. Your tenure here has, the way you have done it has brought about incredible changes, positive changes for kids and teachers. And so anyway, those were the 2 things that really stick out for me as far as the work that you're doing. I know you take things really personally, and things are really challenging right now, and I'm very glad that you're taking care of yourself too, because that's what you're asking your teachers to do, and you're asking your admin to do, and I think that's really important too during these really challenging times. I appreciate your flexibility, your shifting, you're seeing, within time, oh, this is not going to work. This is what we thought we were going to do this summer, and now we're not. And you're okay to make that shift. You're not stuck in that kind of mindset. So I really appreciate that also. I would just say, just keep taking care of yourself and your staff, and we'll keep moving forward. So.
Kevin?
All right, well, a lot of great things have been said. So first of all, I just say, I appreciate all your efforts that you're doing and all the hard work that you put in every day. I think just thinking back to the last 3 years roughly, I feel like much of, and I know this is specifically for this year, but you're always, everything to me is purposeful, which then ties into what are we going to do for this year? What we sat down last year to do for the LSRP, and now we're applying that with mental health for both students and staff. I think that's just one more thing, because we've checked off other things in the box. And I realize also it's not easy by any means for the people that are working for you, because there's a lot of things to be done. But you continue to figure out how to galvanize those teams and a culture of that we work together, and that's not just the people that are at the Wilson, that's people at the schools. And we had a presentation tonight, and how excited were those ladies to express what they've been doing for the last 3 years. So to me, this is a nutshell of what you've been doing, obviously drilling down into what's purposeful for this year, but you just continue to build on those things from one year to another. And so I just appreciate the things that you're doing at this point in time. And we'll, as we get into the next stage, have additional ideas, but thank you.
Lauren?
Thank you. I want to start by saying thank you again for this opportunity, because I know from friends who are teachers in other districts on different boards, you don't always have this opportunity to talk about like where we are, where we're going, and to evaluate yourself in public is huge. And so thank you very much. Similar to Trustee Neal, I looked at a couple of the numbers, and I thought you were hard on yourself, and I think I said this last time. I also respect that, because I think that's what motivates you. And so I am going to respect your numbers, because I know you put them there intentionally. But sitting with you on the committee for our student well-being, and looking at that community of care and support for students, and going back to when you were hired and you had the number written on your hand, I just believe you are so intentional in being in the people business. And I hope that after our work is done, that you are able to put that number up even higher. And if it needs to be 3 until that work's done, I totally understand it and respect it. And similar to what Trustee Black was saying, you are so intentional in your work and where we are moving. And it gives us such a clear projection of what we will see in our district. And being born and raised here, and very proud of what Bozeman believes about education. I just think you have given our community a clear timeline and a clear projection of what we have come to know and expect. But with that being said, pulled the curtain back and said, but we are failing in all these places. And you have been very good at responding to that. And it is very much appreciated, because we are a changing community, and your response is a heavy load. It's a heavy load. And so, and like Trustee Wilson said, please keep taking care of yourself so you can model it for others. And I think, as somebody that does not always take care of myself, when I see people not just saying it, but doing it, it reminds me of how important it is. And so I'm thinking that's the same for your staff. So take care of yourself, because we need you.
Tanya?
I do not have any constructive feedback, except to continue doing what you're doing, because you're doing a good job, and greatly appreciate it. I continue to see where you have taken nebulous ideas and then come up with concrete plans and strategies to implement them. And I love watching the way you're layering the efforts on it from central office down into the classrooms and vice versa. And I am so excited to go in the schools with you as the first one this year in Gallatin High, and just seeing where you had tried to share some of that vision and those ideas a couple years ago. And it wasn't all smooth sailing. And to see where it is now, it's really exciting. So don't change. Whatever is working, keep it working, because it is. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Please have a chair and write your name and address down there on that clipboard if you don't mind. And when you're ready, hit the green button. And it's on the right. Yep. We generally give people 2 minutes, but you're only one person, so if you'd like more than 2 minutes. No, I planned it for 2 minutes. All right. And please give us your name verbally as well.
Hi, so my name is Elizabeth Matthews, and I do know a lot of you from being a school teacher for 15 years, and now I work on grants with mentoring new teachers. But I'm also here because I have 3 children, one junior and an 8th grader, and our big focus when not in football season is baseball season. I was unable to come to the last one. I was the one who actually rallied most of the people to come to it. And then my 3-year-old started throwing up about an hour before, and I chose not to come. I did think about coming and bringing her, but I decided not to. Yeah. But I am representing the Bozeman Baseball Varsity Initiative, and we just wanted to let you know that we are really focused on trying to work with you guys in the school district, and we've been reading all of Casey's emails. I always read all of Casey's emails anyways that come out every week, but really just looking forward to moving forward with the high school baseball. Really interested in what's going to happen on the surveys they've all been taking. I don't know if you guys noticed, we did start an Instagram page and a Facebook page under Bozeman Baseball Varsity Initiative. And I think the big thing is we are trying to encompass both schools equally. We're going to do every fundraising. We're trying to do, we've already started on fundraising. We've already worked with the Legion program. We've already worked with the Bozeman Youth Baseball program to try to figure out field space, practice schedules, game schedules, or not schedules, I should say locations, and how we're going to work with time and what's available for use in our Bozeman youth programs and our Legion program, and how we can work in the into both of them to have an successful, especially with like Belgrade and Butte has successfully incorporated Legion and high school baseball already. Right now, I think you guys already know that right now Helena and Bozeman is the only schools and AA schools that have not adopted it yet. And I know you guys are doing your due diligence in working with the Title IX and your if-then kind of fundraisers, or not fundraisers, ideas. I was just looking at my notes, and I think I hit everything for my 2 minutes. But yet, and we will have people at every meeting, so you do get a look forward to that. We are really trying to get kids. I was going to bring my 2 kids today. I did look at the announcements, and one of them's already in bed, and the other one is just finishing up his chemistry homework. So it's one of those things that, yeah, but we will try to start getting kids so you can actually hear from the students on how important it is. Just from the beginning, you heard both students talk about both student representatives talk about their high schools, and I think it turned into very competition almost like, but I think we are just doing this to support both high schools and support as many kids playing more sports as possible. So if you have any questions for me, you can feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment on non-agenda items? Really, Toby?
No, I'm just, have a chair. Please come up. Yeah.
Yes, really. I just want to say on behalf of all of us future teachers at MSU's programs, that it truly sounds like you guys have the interest of Bozeman schools and Bozeman School District at a heart. You're looking forward to our future. I've heard you guys mention the future when it comes to housing prices and the affordability within the schools and stuff like that. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for continuing the work that you're doing here. And we, as future educators, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Toby. Thanks for sitting here the whole time. I'm impressed. I would have lost money on that bet.
Is there any executive cabinet reports? Any board of trustees?
I'll just pass this out. It's just a reminder. I've sent it to trustees before, but we won't meet again until before this happens. So, Board of Public Ed is here, right here, in this room, the 20th, 21st, 22nd. You're welcome to attend any or all parts of that. I will be attending the beginning of the Wednesday meeting, to welcome them to Bozeman and to talk about, preview what they're going to see the next day. There's tours going on at the Bozeman Reads Early Learning Center, and then the Bridger Charter Academy has their formal site visit by the Board of Public Ed on Thursday. I'm not really sure what Friday looks like. Those agendas are still evolving, and I know that Trustee Lucine is putting together some public comment around the initiatives that he's working on as well. So just a heads up, they've actually, I had to mess up Mr. Van Vieren's schedule today. They're going to be in this room and they're going to use all of the features and do their live Zoom meeting plugged in. So he's stuck multitasking, being the tech guy / deputy superintendent for 3 days.
Thank you. Board of Trustees reports. Sandy.
Well, just as the liaison to the Bozeman School Foundations, just a reminder that the Santa Run is coming up. And so you can sign up and run, or you can sign up virtually and run on another day, or you can just sign up. I'll be working the parking lot in the back of the Emerson. That's where we were last year, making sure nobody parks in there, because that's not okay. So anyway, reminder.
You guys should do that. It's fun. The Santa Run. Get all your friends, sign up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really fun. Yeah. You're training for a triathlon, so. Yeah. Any further Board of Trustee reports? Gary?
Not a report, just a question on the agenda for the Board of Education meeting on Friday. The schedule I got was it's in the afternoon. So I just need to clarify that.
I don't think they finalized their agenda.
Maybe Wednesday.
So McCall approved, she gave me the dates and the times. I put this together, sent it to her. She green lighted it. But I know that, as I mentioned, I'm not sure what Friday's going to look like. And I don't think they're meeting in the afternoon, because it's like they're trying to get to other activities on campus. Yeah. Yeah.
Any further Board of Trustee reports? Seeing none,